Afadhali mzee ambaye ni mtulivu, ambaye hana haja ya kujaza mifuko yake, ambaye atachunga masilahi ya watu yake, badala ya mdomo tamtamu 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 tamtamu. Lakini akiingia ni wale wa kufanya moja yako, nusu ya mwananchi, mbili yako na tano yangu. Na mnawajua nyinyi
kutafuta uongozi kwa kutumia dini au kutumia kabila, unagawa watu. Kazi ya uongozi ni kujenga watu wawe kitu kimoja.
The 2.2 billion has been spent in the office of the president and State House between July and September. If you do that, it means that we spend in that office 23 million per day and 1 million per hour. That cannot be sustainable.
Sisi vile vile sio wote ambao wanataka ugomvi kwa sababu ya ugomvi.
Niwaambia nyinyi ni wajinga mkimfuata Ruto. Mkadhani tunawadanganya.
Jeti ya Ruto. Hii maisha ya Ruto ni stress na ni stress.
Mungu, wewe umetukosea.
Sasa
tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunakaa kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako.
Nasikia watu wanasema baba ametusaliti. Between baba kutusaliti na sisi kusaliti baba, nani amesaliti mwingine?
Inapeangwa, it mostly goes to foreign ministries. So baba is overqualified for that position.
To build this railways for Africa. So now he's thinking about tumemkataa kama baba wetu.
Unaweza kuwa kuna mtoto ulizaa, ukapatia nchi, ikuwa inamfanya vile inataka.
Uhuru has been working very hard. Ruto akaenda huko na nguvu. Ruto was never invited in the inauguration.
Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye Sound Candy Talk.
Open Forum Political Discussion Show. The show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development.
Tukutane Sound Candy Talk.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We are glad you're watching. Thank you so much for making time to join us. This is Sound Candy Talk, Open Forum Political Discussion Show. The show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, the warning about the floods did not come yesterday. It has been with us as back as September or October of last year. The people concerned gave us the picture of how the rains will be and for how long the rains will last and how fierce that will be. But our government seems to be constituted of the Thomas type. Thomas is one of the disciples of Jesus Christ. When he was told that Jesus has risen from the dead, he said, no. I was here on Good Friday and I saw how he was crucified. there is no way he can come back. He said, except I put my finger in the hand where the nail was driven. That's the only time I'll believe that he is the one and he is risen. Zakayo administration seemed to be operating with the same principle. 60 lives lost, thousands displaced. It's when he constituted the multi-agents response team for the floods cases. Did we have to lose 60 people and get properties of unknown amount lost before there is a response from the government? Is this what Kenyans deserve? Well, I call upon you, even as we start the conversation. Apologies for starting late, but I believe we're here and we must do what we must do. Thank you for inviting somebody, reminding somebody, and getting into the show. We call upon you to participate fully by inviting somebody, reminding somebody, and then, of course, being the participant and not the spectator. I salute every one of you, wherever you are, as we start the conversation. Use the link in the comment section to get into the studio and let's get talking. This flood crisis is something that, in my opinion, should not have been dire as it is if the government utilized the information given by the scientists. This is the government that claims to be scientific. You remember Linturi? He said nobody should tell you about the fake fertilizer if it's not a scientist. So what happened to the meteorological science prediction that was given to the government ahead of time, that they have waited for people to die out of floods before they put together their multi-agents response team? What's cooking with this country? Must we use people as specimen in the laboratory before we come together, sit on the table and begin to prepare? I thought government need to have foresight, and foresight means anticipate problems, solve them before they begin to happen. Well, I'm calling upon you as all right-thinking Kenyans. Let's engage, let's talk, and let us make sure that we hold to account this administration for them to deliver on just saving lives, because I don't think it's asking too much. Saving lives. You can fail every other place, but saving lives should be a priority to you as an administration, as a government. Must you fail on everything? Well, karibu tunapoanza mazungumzo yetu, tafadhali karibisha mtu. Wacha ni wasabai wawili watatu tunapoanza. Samahani tumeanza kuchelewa, lakini naamini tuko hapa. Hiyo namba watazamaji ipande tafadhali. Tuko mstari wa mbele kwa Sound Candy Talk live na waona pale. Sound Candy Talk tuko present. Facebook hatujaamka. Naona X tuko. Tafadhali naomba tumakinike kukaribishana, kukumbushana ili tukajifunze mengi tu tunapoanza mazungumzo yetu. Shadizo huyo akona kesi. He says he's following. Okay, thank you. Kuna Karen, welcome to the show. Esther Stoll, welcome to the show. William Adilo anasema, hi all of you good people. Kenyans are surprised why Ruto has left the country. Did you people want him to stay in Kenya and get carried away with floods? William Adilo, Okay, Michael Giga anasema, I stand with Ruto, must go ASAP no matter what, to Manyani prison. Okay, Karen says, Ruto wants all Kenyans to die. We can leave Kenya for him and his family. Very sad, but not far from what could be the reality that is cooking. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we start the conversation, please let's be on the forefront to invite each other. Undumani umeenda wapi? Uko ushafika? Wewe ndio ulikuwa utufungulie dance. Kuna nini? Karibu. rejea tena. Tuko Facebook Sound Candy Talk, tuko X Sound Candy Talk, TikTok Sound Candy Talk, YouTube Sound Candy as well. Therefore, whatever platform you enjoy to get us, please get us. Let's engage on this matter of the floods. And then, of course, the doctors have turned down everything the government has offered. They are back to square one, and they are ready to be sacked if that should be the consequences of their striking, but they are not going back on their CBO that was signed 7 years ago, as the government is proposing. So what was looking like there is light at the end of the tunnel, we are back to square one, and the doctors will be resuming street demos on Tuesday. So Zakayo is not just failing in mitigating the floods in the country as a crisis, he is failing also in addressing the doctors' strike that has been on. This is now the 43rd day, and I understand he's out of the country. So it appears to me that Kenyans are on their own, and if nothing is done, we are doomed. And so I am calling upon us, let's engage as Kenyans, let's talk. Let's not be afraid to call a spade and not a big spoon. This administration is far from being responsible, is far from being excellent, is far from meeting what the Kenyans expect and at least what Kenyans deserve. We are not, a pack of potatoes that we can be neglected. We rot there until we produce the smell. Is when somebody will notice that there's a bag that is smelling around here. I believe the number one priority of any government anywhere on earth is to save lives, is to mitigate against disasters. And this flood one, the floods, that should not be taken as an accident. I know we are a country of accidents. We believe in thriving in the stories that, oh, it's an accident, we were not anticipating and all that. This was forewarned right in good time. But what did we do? We sat to do our politics on top of cars, trying to convince Kenyans on how affordable housing is more important. Now look at what has happened. The whole country is flooded. 60 lives lost. Thousands displaced. It's when Ruto and team can sit together and put urgent response team. God have mercy. Undumani, hali vipi?
Salama Bernard. Unanipata?
Nakupata vizuri tena sana.
Aya, asante. Nitaenda kwa mada direct.
Karibu.
Tuko na mafuriko. Asante. Tuko na mafuriko sana. Watu wanaumia sana. Na hii serikali haikukuwa na mpangilio. Hata mpangilio ya madaktari iliwashinda. Mpangilio ya elimu iliwashinda. Mpangilio hii ya gharika hii imewashinda. So ile mpangilio wako nayo ni mpangilio ya kujiongezea muda ya kutawala, na mpangilio ya kufanya namna gani, ni nani atatuzuia kutawala inji, ni nani atatuzuia. Mtu yule anatuzuia mipango yao ni kumuondoa. Mtu yule anasuia ni kumuondoa. Hata mipango ya kusaidia huyo jemedari ndege yake kupata ajali, Bernard, hiyo mpangilio hawana. Mipangilio hii serikali iko, ni nani anasuia hii serikali akufe? Ni nani anasuia hii serikali kufanya ABCD? Ni nani huyu anasuia utawala wao? Hiyo tu ndio wako na mpangilio hiyo, lakini mpangilio ingine Bernard hawako. Lakini ole wao wanafikiria kwamba hii dunia wataishi, kwa sababu mtu akijipangia ya kesho, atuache tusongeshe muda wetu. Wache tusongeshe muda wetu tutawale kwa miaka 7, na wanashindwa kuweka mipangilio ya hali ya hewa. Wanashindwa kuweka mipangilio Bernard. Haya, tuangalie katika ile area ya chemichemi ya maji. Ile area ya chemichemi ya maji umeshapora hizo plots zote. so hakuna maji vile itaweza kuenda, kwa sababu wakati ya zamani ilikuwa chemichemi ya maji kule. That's why Moi alikuja na hiyo tuseme ati mmonyoko wa udongo, kuzuia mmonyoko wa udongo. So tunazuiaje mmonyoko wa udongo kama hao mabomu wenyenye wamejenga manyumba mpaka sehemu ya maji kupita, wamefunga hiyo sehemu ya maji kupita. That's why hiyo maji inajaa, hakuna mahali ya kupita. So wako na mipango ile wako nayo ni mipango, tutanyang'anya nani plot, tutanyang'anya nani shamba, tutafanya nini Bernard. Hawana mipangilio ingine Bernard, hawana mpangilio. That's why unaona hii katika uchaguzi, waliingia katika uchaguzi kufanya namna gani? Si kuweka mpangilio, ni kuweka ile mipangilio yao ya kuiba, ni kuweka hiyo mpangilio yao ya kunyakua. So hawana agenda yoyote hii serikali, hawana agenda. Saa hii ndio hiyo wako na agenda ya kufungua sijui bunge house hiyo ni manyumba ile ya umalaya Bernard. Hii ni manyumba ile ya umalaya, kwa sababu utapata mbunge yako huko na ofisi, hako na kitanda huko ndani, hako na viti huko ndani. Hiyo yote inafanya nini hiyo? Badili ya kwenda kufanya mipangilio kwanza, kabla hujafungua ile nyumba ya bunge, wangeanza kufanya mikakati hii ya gharika, wangeanza kufanya mikakati hii ya mvua hii flood, kufanya namna gani kuacha kusumbua watu. Angalia watu ni nchi gani ile watu wanaenda mpaka juu ya mabati, wanakaa juu ya mabati. Hii ni kumaanisha ya kwamba hii nchi haitawaliwi na watu, inatawaliwa na wanyama, si watu. Kwa sababu kama ingekuwa inatawaliwa na watu Bernard, hao watu wangejua maslahi ya Wakenya, lakini wameweka maslahi yao mbele. Huko gharika inaua watu, na hapo wabunge hawana ile tunaitanga akili, hawana ile akili, na ndio hao watu Bernard waliwachagua. So hao watu wakikufa na maji, nani atawachagua Bernard? Badili ya kuacha hiyo nyumba kufunguliwa, hiyo nyumba ya sijia bunge house hiyo, badili ya kuacha hiyo nyumba kufunguliwa, waende kusaidia wale watu wanakufa na gharika, waende kusaidia wale wa Kenya wenye hawana chakula, wamezama maji, wamefanya kila kitu Bernard. Badili ya kwenda kuwasaidia hao watu, wanaenda kufungua hizo manyumba Bernard. Hizo manyumba wanafungua, hizo ni nyumba za kufanya umalaya ndani Bernard. Hakuna hiyo ofisi ati bunge house. Hiyo bunge house hiyo ni nyumba ile ya umalaya ile wanafanyia ndani Bernard. Hawa wangetoka kufungua hiyo manyumba yao hiyo, waende wasaidie Mkenya. Mkenya anataka huduma yao. Mkenya aliwachagua kufanya kazi gani? Mkenya aliwachagua kufanya kazi gani? Hakuwachagua kwenda kufungua hiyo jumba. Mkenya aliwachagua kuenda kuwasaidia katika maisha yao, katika hii maisha ya kupanda mahindi, wanaletewa mahindi ni mbolea ile ya mchanga. Ndio hiyo badili ya jemedari huyo kukufa kwa ndege, hao ndio wangefanya maintenance ya hiyo ndege. Hakuna Bernard, hakuna Bernard. Wameona mtu mkubwa anakufa na mlea, wala mpangilio tangu hata wakoe kwa matanga. Hakuna kitu ya maana waliongea huko, hakuna kitu ya maana waliongea huko kuhusu gharika, kuhusu hii ajali watafanya namna gani. Hakuna Bernard. Hii ni wabunge wale hawana mikakati. Hii ni bunge bure. Hii ni bunge ile imeoza Bernard. Hawana mpangilio yoyote kwa Wakenya. Wakenya tu wabaki kumuomba Mungu peke yake, lakini si kumuomba hawa wanadamu hao, kwa sababu Biblia inasema amtegemee mwanadamu amelaniwa. Hata tusitegemee rais. Tukitegemea rais tumelaniwa. Tukitegemea hao wabunge tumelaniwa, kwa sababu Biblia inasema ya kwamba amtegemee mwanadamu amelaniwa. So tukitegemea hao viongozi wetu Bernard, tumtegemee rais, tukitegemea wa viongozi wetu, sisi tumelaniwa, tumelaniwa Bernard, kwa sababu hakuna mahali tutaenda mpaka tumwamini tu Mungu. Mungu ndiye atatuondolea hiki kikombe iliko mbele yetu Bernard. Mungu ndiye atatuondolea hiki kikombe, kwa sababu Wakenya wameteseka sana ya kutosha Bernard. Tunaomba Mungu atuondolee hii vikombe hii Bernard, kwa sababu tuoni hii viongozi wetu wanafanya wako na kazi gani ya kufanya Bernard? Hawana kazi ya kufanya. Kazi yao ni kuhudhuria matanga na kupromise vitu mingi kwa matanga ili yenye wawezi kufanya Bernard. Hawajui hii gharika imesumbua Wakenya. Hiyo ndio Bernard hawajui Bernard. So tunaomba tu Mungu atusaidie na atuondolee hii janga hii ya flood. Atuondolee kabisa, kwa sababu hatuna viongozi wale watatushughulikia sisi. ni Mungu peke yake atatushughulikia sisi, atuondolee hii gharika. Kwa sababu kama wangekuwa na mipangilio, wangeangalia wale watu wote wanajenga kwa sehemu ya maji, ya chemichemi ya maji. Waangalie watu yote wasijenge katika chemichemi ya maji, wawache hiyo chemichemi ya maji, ili mvua ikinyesha hiyo maji ikuwa inapita ikienda straight Bernard. Lakini unapata hivi viongozi hao mabwenyenye wamenunua sehemu ya chemichemi ya maji, hakuna vile maji inaweza kupita. Wamefunga hiyo njia ya maji kujenga magorofa kubwa kubwa, wamefunga kufanya kujenga vitu vyao kule. That's why wamezuia hiyo maji kupita, hata kama kuna gharika ya maji kuna gharika Bernard. Lakini serikali haina mpangilio kutoka kwa waziri wa kilimo, maneno hii ya hali ya hewa, hakuna Bernard mpangilio. Serikali yenyewe hakuna haja mpangilio. Serikali hiyo iko tu kufanya nini? Kufanya ufisadi, vile kila mtu ataiba pesa namna hiyo, na vile wataanza kuua wengine Bernard. Hiyo ndio mipango yao. Tutaua nani? Yule anazuia sisi kutawala, ndio wanaua. Hawafanyi chochote Bernard, hawafanyi Bernard. So hii serikali haina mbele, haina nyuma, iko pale tu Bernard. Hakuna vile tutaweza kusema ya kwamba ati hii serikali ni ile serikali ya kuhudumia watu. Hakuna. Hii ni serikali ile bonoko, hii ni serikali ya wauaji, hiyo ni serikali. Ndio nasema katika Ufunuo wa Yohana, yeye ni Alfa na Omega, na wa mwisho, na atakuja na ujira wake kumulipa kila mwanadamu, hata akiwa rais, akiwa wabunge, akiwa nani, atakuja na ujira wake mkononi kumulipa kila mwanadamu kulingana na matendo yake. Na aliye na masikio asikie, kwa sababu wako na masikio hawasikii, na aliye na macho na aone. Wako na macho lakini hawaoni Bernard. Asante, ubarikiwe.
Okay, Amina, asante sana Undumani, tutashukuru kwa utangulizi huu. Anasema serikali hii ina mipangilio, lakini hiyo mipangilio si kwa ajili ya Wakenya. Hao wako obsessed na jinsi watakavyokaa mamlakani na jinsi ya kuwatimua wale ambao wanakisiwa kuwa vizuizi kwa hao kuongeza siku zao katika mamlaka na kuendeleza kudhulumu wa Kenya. Na hili ndio swala nyeti ambalo lazima tulishughulikie kama Wakenya. Tutakubali kufinyiliwa chini mpaka lini? Huku madaktari wako kwa mgomo, hapa wananchi wanakufa maji. Haya maji yalitabiriwa kitambo, na ikawa serikali inapaswa kuweka mikakati ya kuhakikisha kwamba mvua nyingi itakuwepo na itaendelea. Kwa hivyo mbona imekuwa sasa tena jambo la dharura wakati habari ilipeanwa mapema na mikakati ilikuwa iwekwe mapema? So ni wazi kwamba the priorities of this administration are not having Kenyans at the center of it, and that is why we as Kenyans need to take back our country and secure it completely from the bad leadership and the bad direction that it's taking. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage, please keep inviting somebody. I know we started a little, very late, not a little late, very late, but I'm sure we can still engage. So let's get the number of viewers rising. Sound Candy Talk Live is leading. Sound Candy Talk following by 50%. Facebook iko na mtu mmoja. Naomba watu wa Facebook tuamke tafadhali, tukamakinike kwa mambo haya. So William Ruto and his administration are messing this country and are making a mockery of our government. There is a video I'll be sharing towards the tail end of the show on how we have exposed our military, and our military doesn't now have that, that demeanor to stand tall among the nations of the world, talk less of Africa because of what has happened to their CDF. And so there is a lot that is happening in this country. And what, pains me is that it appears Ruto is not realizing the kind of mess we are in by reason of the blunders that are taking place. How do we get warned months earlier before the rains begin, and then we are in the middle of the floods? Is when he puts up the multi-disciplinary agency response. What? When 60 people have died, thousands have been displaced, mamas have been collected. Hey, there's a video I'll be sharing shortly, but please, Kenyans, let's wake up and stop this dilly-dallying. We are dilly-dallying. Something must happen to this country if we will get our act together. Welcome on board. Thank you very much. I can now bring in Reverend Lala to weigh on this matter. How are you, Reverend?
Bernard, I'm well, but quite concerned. And my condolences to the families that have been lost their loved ones and have been displaced, and really in a crisis at this moment with no help in sight. It's sad watching what our beloved country is going through at this moment with the floods and with other things that have been going on. And so our heart goes out to the nation. We are praying for you, and whatever we can, we'll try to do to at least contribute towards lessening the impact of this disaster that is upon us. Bernard, I just would like to comment, make some few remarks regarding disaster management, because that is what I do. That is a training that I have in the US system, what they call a team management leader. In a different system, I can manage up to level 3 of disaster. I've worked in almost every disaster the last 20 years in the US, whether it was 911, plane crashes and all that, whether there's floods in the South, different parts of the country. And so I know something about disaster management. I've served also as a supervisor with the American Red Cross. And so I think I can contribute a little bit towards disaster. But these multiple disasters, I look at General Ogola's leaving us as a critical incident, disaster that needed to be managed. And let me just say something about that. And this is any disaster management specialist who was involved know exactly what I'm talking about. When you have, first of all, you got to be prepared. To prepare your people, you got to have a team, establish a team that will come very quickly to be able to plan how you respond to incidents like what we have now in the country. And so this, you may have a different name, but there has to be an ongoing assessment, study, planning. It goes on all the time. In our case, we have every year we do a mock drill, a mock to prepare our people. We do an assessment of what we do, whether it is a nuclear power station, whether it is something like what we have in Nairobi, water, whether it is a chemical warfare. We get our people ready, and it's serious. If it is a plane crash or a disaster, we literally get a plane, it's a dummy plane, we put them on fire, and we basically see how we can, help. save lives. We work with all the hospitals in the city. With the on alert, we want to know how many beds are available in case of disaster and how ready they are. And this we do continuously. We go to a nuclear power. I literally go to a nuclear power station with a group of us and see how, in case of emergency, what need to be done. In other words, when something like this happens, what we see now in Kenya, automatically there should be a plan. These are things that you practice constantly. You're on top of the game in terms of disaster preparedness or readiness. So when an incident like this happens, you move, your people in operation. The team begin to assess the risk, they determine the impact, then plan the response, and then solidify the plan, and all these things needed to have been in place, especially for the city of Nairobi. I study different cities myself. I study London, how it works. I don't stay there, but I look at what they do constantly to be able to get yourself ready as a nation. The studies are there. So it's nothing like this. What I'm talking about is special in the US. Everybody can access some of these studies if you, and the funding even to take you for training and all that. So I don't excuse Nairobi not getting ready. They can be overwhelmed because a disaster. You can't help some things that may come, which you are not quite ready for, but at least you have a plan. What I'm looking at, and I'm trying to juggle my mind and see what is the plan. And the first thing that must happen, very first thing, you got to have a press desk that updates the nation, possibly every 5 minutes, depending on the incident, or every 30 minutes, or every hour, depending on what's really going on. That people need to be informed of what is going on. I live in the city right now where I live in now. If something should happen, I know where to go. If on the east side of the town, I know where to run. West side of town, I know where to run. In other words, people are told, are prepared. Companies are prepared. The mayors and the governors prepare the people. What I'm seeing here is so sad after 60 years of independence. With all this university, with all this training we have, somehow we are just like some third down-rated. We have so much to lose and very little is going on. Maybe I'll be told something that I'm not hearing. You guys will educate me what is going on. So that is to do with the city. So I'm sad, really, really sad. Now let's look at General Gora situation. This is where it is dumbfounding. I'm dumbfounded. It is really unless you guys also will help me. What is it that is going on in terms of a normal investigation and updating of what went on by the people? In other words, what is the government telling us went wrong with that whatever? There is a sense in which we are kept in the dark. Right now, we should have seen some photos of the scene. I've not seen anything. Not that we open them up, for everybody, but at least some ideas what really happened should have been there. And if not managed by, at least managed by the government itself, someone updating us, this is what happened to the general, this is where he went, this is what, I've not seen that. Maybe you can help me understand. So at this moment, I don't know anything about General Gora. And I have an interest because this is a man who went to my primary school, a school a mile, less than a mile away from my home. Okay? And my family, went to school with him, but I didn't attend school with him. This is someone who is a national hero. This is the most, perhaps the most protected person in the country, because he's the one to protect even the president if something should happen. Okay? Dying like a chicken. Okay? An embarrassment. And yet we are told nothing. It is shameful and it's annoying to me and is purely embarrassing for the state of a country like Kenya. So when I don't even know if somebody there ever read anything about how to manage a crash, a very simple plan that should have been there. The first thing you do when a crisis happens is to secure the environment. Nothing leaves. You make sure it's protected. That's the scene. People can take pictures from outside, but this place has to be secured. Up to this point, I don't know when Ogola died. Really, maybe you guys can help me. I've been trying to find out what really went on. If they talk about a picture, those pictures, I don't think those are Ogola's where he died. I got no clue what went on. It's like this man, either they're hiding him somewhere. How do we know Ogola died? The son talked about the Bible, okay, and where's that Bible? I mean, this is crazy. I've got no clue what happened to Ogola. And so when we say died, people begin to wonder: is he dead? Okay, yes, he died. But why are they hiding basic information? Basic information. Let us, first of all, the funeral. I don't want to talk about it because that's just terrible. But clearly, if I look at the way funeral was conducted and the way they are conducting themselves before and after, then I can see Uda's hand in it, all of it, and Kenyans, you're duped. Kenyans, you don't have a country. Kenyans belong to some third somewhere controlling things because they're not following the basics. The basics of disaster management, of crisis management. The basics. Six were the place. Give information. Tell us what's going on. This is what's going on, and this is what happened. This is what we let us know something. But to hide everything in the name of investigating does not fly at all. So, to me, I'm even beginning to think that the Luos recently elected Kale, the leader, let him have lawyers to go because those are his members. Ogola is a Luo. Let the Luos bring a case to know that man should have been updated on what happened to his member. Then why am I part of that organization? So these are factors that we don't understand. So for me, I'm hurt, I'm angry, I don't understand what's going on. Maybe somebody will educate me and help me, Bernard. Let me be silent and hear somebody to help me with my fears. I think we are getting an S.
Okay, thank you, Reverend. It's all shrouded in mystery. Left for me, this country has gone back many steps. The progress we had gained under Kibaki, under Uhuru Kenyatta seemed to have all been lost within the less than 2 years of the Ruto administration. And it appears that we may never get what we are asking for if the approach or if the way to go about it is to wait for the Ruto administration to investigate and bring anything. I love your take. I think we should have multifaceted approach towards the investigations on the matter of the general, but like somebody said, the general is more dangerous dead than alive. It is boiling towards that direction, and that is why everybody needs to be careful, especially those in power and those who think that they have gotten rid of whatever that was an obstacle. It could just turn around and be something that would have saved them if they had never imagined and tried to do what they are doing. And so right now, I would say that any official communication, no. The Ruto administration is so disjointed to an extent that they cannot even give an update on the floods. Okay, like unlike what Uhuru used to do with the Mutahi Kagwe, Magoha, Matiang'i. We had daily briefings about COVID and how many admitted, how many are on oxygen, and all that. We had data. But this is one haphazard PR administration that wants to play before the cameras with no back office data. It is just rhetorics. And so I am pained to acknowledge that what we have is not a government like we know government, because ilikuwa inajulikana serikali ina mkono mrefu. Serikali inajua mambo mengi. Hakuna kitu unaweza fanya ambacho serikali haiwezi kukupata. That's how we grew knowing a government to be. But what we are being treated to by William Ruto is not a government, it's not an organization. Even church administration looks better than what we are being treated to by this regime. And so it's very annoying at times, because how do you sit in office and, claim to be leading 56 or plus million people, yet you have no heart for any of them. You have no remorse. 60 people are dead because of floods, which are as a result of your negligence. Then you take the next flight out of the country. Where does that happen? Madam Suluhu, the president of Tanzania, she was in Dubai in an international conference. I think was something to do with the climate change. And then there was a landslide that killed, I think, was it 40 people or something like that. She left the conference immediately, got home to address the issue and, handled the case. Our own does not stay home. The CDF is dead in unclear circumstances. 60 people have lost their lives in the floods, and it's on the next flight. Mr. Njiru, karibu.
Yes, how are you, Bernard? How are you?
Coping.
Yeah, so mimi nataka kuingililia hii discussion yenyu leo so that I can also offer some value and also try to analyze what is happening in our country in an objective and eyesight way. First, we need to know that the day when there were floods in Dubai, a place which does not flood, that was the day when Kenya was supposed to prepare for an imminent disaster. As we speak now, for the last, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, Dubai and Oman deserts, they have never experienced the floods which they experienced. I'm hearing flood models. They are saying even for the last 1,000 years, it has never rained that way in Dubai. And we don't know where that rain from Dubai came from. some conspiracists, they are coming up with all manner of issues, but I don't want to go there. Let's assume it came from God. Sababu tunasemanga mvua inatoka kwa Mungu. So for the purpose of this discussion, let me leave the sources of rain, they come from God. So I don't want to go beyond there. So Nairobi, floods have no issues. Normally when it rains, the natural procedure of water is to move from higher grounds to lower grounds and to pass in places which have some depressions. So water is very obedient. So water will never come to where you are. But at the same time, if you have channels or drainages which you don't clean well, or something like sort is happening, that clogging could actually become a more disaster. So the question which we are supposed to ask ourselves here is, who cleans our drainages? Because to me, from my own analysis, that is and for your information, the rain which is in Nairobi is not as huge. It is not even it has not been upgraded to El Nino scale. So it doesn't mean that haimaanishi ati hiyo mvua hatujaipokea mvua kama hiyo. Nairobi has received such rain. So let's first of all begin from there. I think even 2 or 3 years ago, we had the equivalent bigger rain than that. But what is the difference? Why is it that now suddenly rain in Nairobi seems to be very huge? And for your information, rain in Nairobi and other big urban centers will always be dangerous because of the amount of paved areas we have. You know, the paved area, if you have too much paved area, it means water cannot percolate. So that water has to flow. So that means you need elaborate channels to get that water out. And even as you want to have elaborate channels, you also need some remedial measures of doing drainage cleaning regularly. So I need to know, after Sakaja came, in Nairobi, do we have a contract, or is there who is supposed to be doing drainage cleaning? I want to understand that. I used to hear we used to have ile kitu ilikuwa inaitwa kazi kwa vijana ama ilikuwa inaitwa nini, something like that, long time ago. Was that kazi kwa vijana connected with the cleaning of drainages? Those are things we need to know. Because I don't know, sababu suddenly it shows Sakaja has abandoned the natural way of operation, and that is why it is not that these things which are happening in Nairobi, they cannot be solved. No, they can. But the problem which we are having is that Sakanja is not trying to follow the rule of the thumb. You know, when you don't want to follow the rule of the thumb, you would have to get into problems. Front are very small issues. Fronts are very, they are issues which even Noah people used to solve. Watu ya Noah walikimbia kwa miti. So front has no problem. You can solve front issues. And the known method which is best to solve front issues is having big dams where you can be able to be harnessing that water. So Nairobi has to start thinking of such mega projects. But do we trust Sakaja with such mega projects? That is the big question, because kama sasa nimesikiliza kwa news nikasikia the river is flooding and also wakiangalia the Seven Forks Dam. Citizen did an aerial view, walionyesha vile hiyo flood the way that flooding is continuing, starting from akina Kidaruma huko Seven Forks. But the question which we ask ourselves, doesn't the river need a dam? Mimi hiyo ni swali nimejiuliza. Athi River hatuna hata dam hata moja, or maybe if there is somebody who knows if Athi River has a dam, we need to know. Why is it that all the Kenyan dams are concentrated in Tana River, major ones? Those are the things we ask ourselves. We need to ask ourselves. Does it mean that Athi River doesn't have a gorge? Athi River doesn't have we can't do a dam there because suddenly a dam in Athi River can help. So if there is somebody who knows if Athi River has a dam or not, please, you can let us know. But you see what happens is that when you get new administration like this one, which Sakaja is running, you are supposed to be, the first thing is you are supposed to be focusing. What is going to happen in the next 3 or 4 months? If there will be a disaster of water, you have to be prepared. If there is a disaster of sicknesses, you have to be prepared. And you cannot start telling people that lack of preparedness is what is making people to die. For your information, it is only in Kenya and in Africa where people do not resign because of mismanagement. And that is a quality we have to start inculcating to Africans. There's no way in which things are not working and you still want to be in power. You have to show cause. Is it human intervention which is lacking, or is it negligence? And that comes now even to people like the Kenyan parliament, which is useless. The Kenyan parliament is supposed to predetermine, was Sakaja prepared? Is it negligence? Is it lack of focus? Once they analyze all those issues, they cannot be able to tell Kenyans the reason why Sakaja let Kenyans down by allowing France to carry them, it is because of ABCD. And then we can make an informed decision. But again, because the Kenyan parliament is, I don't know if they are scared or what, or they don't make comprehensive reports. As an individual now, I can point to one thing. Sakaja is not aware of what he's supposed to do in Nairobi. That is one thing which I can confirm here. And that is why we always say, even if you're not aware of the information, always look for good advisors. Look for people with information, people to be covering your back. That is what used to happen. It doesn't mean that in the whole world, people who run administrations are the most learned. No, you don't to be learned. But even if you are not learned, your second layer has to be the best. That is how people have survived issues of decision making. We have so many countries where, by the way, for your information, many countries, their presidents are not learned. So you don't need a PhD to become a president or a governor in any country. What you need is you need to appreciate education in other places. That is all. That is the only thing you need. Even in the US, most of their leaders have like 1 degree. Some of them even don't have degrees. And it doesn't mean that those people are not able to disseminate their work, but they have made sure that in other places, they don't put sycophants. In places whereby people will die, places where you need decision making, you don't put a sycophant, you don't put a Sakaja sycophant there, you don't put a Ruto sycophant there. You put somebody with information, somebody who understands and can be able to advise people accordingly. But what we do, a politician wins power, then after a politician wins power, he doesn't look at what is your capability. Now, hiyo maposition ingine yote tunaanzia kusema ni psychophant. Case in analysis here. Kuna hizi maviti nasikia siku hizi mnaongea zinaitwa cars. Look at all this. A cars is supposed to be a very important person in a ministry, for your information. If we constitutionalize it, they are supposed to be people who are actually like the engine of the ministry. But look at all the 50 cases, and I think they are cases. They are not cars, they are cases. I hope, Bwana, you understand that. All the 50 cases we have, all of them are psychopaths.
Are you cursing them? What do you mean cases? Are you cursing them, or you are pronouncing the abbreviation of their office? Before you respond, let me just confirm. Kazi mtaani, was part of the clogging of the the drainage system in Nairobi. That is why nani General alikuwa anaitwa General nani Mohammed, the metropolitan man who took over from Songo, Badi, did a good job in securing the place. He was even able to put up boreholes and maternity hospitals in Mukuru kwa Njenga, kwa Ruben, in slum areas. Okay, because the water was corrected to have its own course, and so everything was secure. But now the problem with Sakaja and team is they want to reinvent the wheel every time. Instead of building on what you found, you throw away everything, begin with your own roadmap that goes to nowhere. There you go. So
Okay.
is it a curse or a cursing?
I understand what the panel is very clever. The panel can understand me what I mean. Those are 50 cases we are having, because out of those 50 cases, no one is qualified. For your information, no one is qualified. Look at the case in the Ministry of Labor. Look at the case in the Ministry of Education. Look at the case in the Ministry of Health. Do they have equivalent know-how of how they can run those ministries? Look at all those. From where I come, we have one CS, one cast from where I come from. He's called Moshiri. He used to be a former MP. His qualification, he is a policeman. He is a retired policeman. I'm giving an example. He is a retired policeman. Now he was nominated as a cast for forestry and I think environment, something like that. Look at that. So, and when we want to truncate it, go to Nyakomincha. By the way, Nyakomincha, I hear she is a logistic person. She is running health. You can see the mess there. She cannot even speak doctor's language. And that is why I always say this. In countries where people understand what responsibility is, what the president does, he sends a memo to doctors. He tells doctors, we know health belongs to you people. Can you people propose a name as Minister for Health? He goes to educators. He tells educators, give us a name. That is what you do. But you don't start bringing some bibos. Let me call them bibos, because huyu mama sijui alitokezea wapi. And I think the president was highly misadvised to have such a lady in high powers. And now we are suffering. As a nation, people cannot go and do what they are supposed to do in units of health, because we have somebody who is less qualified. So, Bwana Bernard, in a nutshell, as we conclude these stories, I heard over the weekend that Mr. Raila Odinga is starting to criticize the government a little bit, which is okay. But I don't want these people to criticize the government. You don't do that. What you do is you come up with the resolution and you come up with the measures. And I want us to understand, like, I don't know where this issue of shadow ministers went to. I don't know if it is still there. You know, like shadow ministers in, I think like in places like UK or in some places where we have shadow ministers, they come up with the policies which they actually even implement through the parliament, or they even go in the parliament and they give their response. Like the opposition guy in the UK, sometimes I see him speaking in the parliament. So what we need now is we have agreed as a nation, opposition has failed. We don't have opposition, we don't have a way in which you can fight in this front. But even if we don't have opposition where people can fight, we have unorthodox methods of how people can fight the government when they think that the government is not performing. And how do you fight? You fight through agitation. You fight through imposing issues. Like, for example, you say if doctors are not going to get this one will not happen. Now I hand, and I want to ask the rationale of this, by the way. And I don't know why Kenyans, we don't want to be truthful to ourselves. Why is it that they are saying that they cannot pay doctors 2 or 6,000? Sababu hiyo ni kitu nimejiuliza sana. Na msiniambie Kenya hakuna pesa. Why is it that they cannot pay doctors that 2 or 6,000? Which I hand Wagoro, that lady from our place. I heard Wagoro said, who I don't think is a minji now. Ile minji nakula ikai hivyo. I heard Wagoro said they cannot get 2 or 6,000 to pay the doctors. We were, and I heard somebody tabulating that in Kenya we have like less than 1,000 doctors, full doctors. So I don't understand why we can't get money to pay these people. And for your information, we have stayed for 2 years without cases. Na hakuna kazi imesimama, na kama kuna mtu anaweza niambia kuna kazi ijafanyika Kenya because of those cases they want to put in power, tell us. Kazi imekuwa ikifanyika, but because they want to reward their political children, they have to do that. But because again Kenyans are fond of accepting everything, that is why we have to just accept all those things, which to me I think they are not correct. But again, how do we fight? Who will fight this one? You know, that is the big question which we have to ask ourselves. That's all known as squeezy. By the way, the government will, it is a curse we got. The government will be doing anything, na hakuna kitu tutafanya, Bernard, as we speak now, because we have sold our allegiance through maltreating opposition, which is actually the most civilized wing in fighting any government. Once you lose, let me tell you, by the way, in civilized government, don't even.
Ngoja. I want us to remain in proper perspective, okay? We are in the 2010 constitutional dispensation, where oversight to government is a responsibility of the entirety of the judiciary, the entirety of the legislature. The current constitution does not envision government side and the other side. We don't have the backbenchers and the front benchers. That was the old constitution. Where you are claiming that the opposition has been taken over, I don't understand. Because I don't know what is informing that. And I wouldn't want the public to be or to be confused listening to us, because we are flipping from the Old Testament, from the old constitution to the new constitution, back and forth. Can we settle in one place? Okay? And if there is agitation, who is supposed to lead that agitation? Are you not agitating where you are? Why are you saying now the government will do anything it wants to do? Who was stopping it from doing it before?
Okay, let me finish, because I know that one is an emotive issue. But there is one thing which we need to understand here. Judiciary, executive, and parliament, by design, because and especially in rogue countries like ours. Let me call our country rogue. In rogue countries like ours, those things, that thing is one arm. There's no in which you can tell the judiciary to talk against the government. They can't. And even the times when you hear the judiciary pretending, because they pretend. But let's be equivocal here. The Kenyan judiciary pretends they are checking the government, but they don't. Inakuanga tu kutoroa, anasema wacha tukatakata hii kidogo, alafu tutakutania na kule. So in other words, what I'm trying to say, fighting, at the end of the day, you need people to oppose the government. That is something which we have to clearly understand about that. And opposition cannot come from judiciary, and opposition cannot come from other places. What happens is this. The problem which we have is that if the parliament doesn't understand who they are, because actually you can fight from the parliament, but again, we have no right. That's why I want to say it here. As a citizen, you have no right to force your MP to oppose the government if he doesn't want. And that is one thing which personally I was thinking we need to put in our new constitution, or if we will ever have it. In our new constitution, we need to, because it shows we don't know who will ever become the president. In a car, anyone can become a president as long as you can be able to do your things the way you want. So, but we need to ring fence who is the opposition. And who is the opposition? The opposition is the person who will not form the government. Let's be clear on that. Then we ring fence that, and we give those people power. I'm not talking about creating positions of leader of opposition. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking of MPs being ring fence, that if you are in the direction of the other side which has not formed the government, I don't want to call it minority, because it doesn't mean, even in the US, you don't need to be majority to form the government. So whether you are minority or majority, and you have not formed the government, that is what we need to ring fence. We say any person who has not formed the government, your work is to oppose the government. We need to put it that one clear. Because you don't need to be majority to form the government. That is the predicament which Kenyans have been cheated on. Bernard, there is no mathematical number.
I want to order. You are taking us too far. Please.
No, I'm not taking you too far. It is the reality. If you don't form the government,
I'm not against your notion or your submission, but you are getting us away and away and away from the subject we are dealing with, the floods and the mitigation, the response of the government.
Hiyo ni ya Sakaja. Hatuwezi ongea kitu about flood. Hiyo ni Sakaja ajipange.
The floods is everywhere in the country. It's not in Sakaja's place only.
Hatuwezi waambia vile watafanya. Hiyo ni, we cannot talk about the floods. Hiyo ni vitu cheap sana. That is something no, you don't need to discuss. Kitu kidogo hiyo.
Njiru, stop shouting. Stay in order, okay? We are looking at the current government and its response to disaster. 60 people have lost their lives in the floods. Thousands are displaced. Okay? Doctors have walked away from the negotiation. They are back to square one. That is what we are dealing with today. Okay? Story of opposition. Now, who should oppose the government and should not bring it up when we can talk that, then we will deal with that.
I understand, Bernard. 1 minute, I understand. But so how do you want to talk about mismanagement?
You know, Njiru, you've been speaking the past 30 minutes. Are you aware of that?
But no, how do you talk about mismanagement? You cannot talk about guys.
I don't want an exchange with you, Mr. Njiru. Stay in order, Kwanza, then we will give you time. But please don't deviate us from the subject of the day simply because you want to give us the material you have. We know you are a professor, but take it easy with your profession. Don't feed all of it on us in one sentence. So please take your time. We'll get back to you. But what I want us is when we have a particular direction for a debate, we do injustice when we ignore that subject and discuss something else. It even goes against the YouTube community rules. And we are not a sensational channel where we give a topic that is not related to what we are discussing just to get people to click and watch. So I don't want us to digress into that. So please, let's remain within our stipulated standing orders and do justice to the subject of the day and do exhaustive debate on the same. Sakaja is the governor of Nairobi. Nairobi is in disaster right now. What should we do before we think of voting him out or impeaching him from office? Those are part of the possibilities that are around. But if we go around the whole world teaching, we were at Noah's Ark, we are back at the opposition, we are back to parliament, we went to the judiciary. By the time we land, our audience are all lost. They don't know where we are coming from, where we are going. That is what I'm guarding against. So, Bwananjiru, let's remain within our stipulated standing orders. I have no problem with what you're saying, but let it be said in the proper forum, in the right perspective. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us from wherever you are. I appreciate the number of viewers increasing. Tuendelee hivyo hivyo tafadhali. Sound Candy Talk Live is leading, followed by Sound Candy Talk YouTube channels. Facebook is still low. X is doing well, but stuck in one place. If you are following us on X, please make sure that you retweet that particular link and share it in groups if possible. Get more people to view. Take charge. TikTok pia naona tunaendelea vizuri, lakini naomba hizo likes sioni zikipanda, screen imenyamaza. I need you to be active. Hit that screen. Let me see those roses. And if you are able to get us confirmed, if you have a question, put it in the comment section, especially on TikTok. We'll be able to read it out and get our audience here to respond. Thank you very much for being part and parcel of the great conversation on Sound Candid Talk, where we face all matters as they are, seeking the best way to get out of the mess we have gotten ourselves into by the bad leadership of the Ruto administration. This country deserves better. We had made miles and miles ahead in terms of disaster mitigation under Kibaki and Uhuru Kenyatta. We seem to have lost all that. What is happening? Let's talk. Mr. Wangira, Karibu, how are you?
Oh, I am fine, Bernard. How are you?
Good. Welcome. Maybe just before you come in, let's just watch this shortly.
In the meantime, the Kenya Meteorological Department is tonight warning of intensified rainfall in all the 47 counties. In an advisory issued Thursday, the weatherman warns that the heavy rainfall will continue for the next 72 hours. With schools set to reopen next week, the government says it is monitoring the situation to establish the effects of the heavy rains on learning institutions. Citizen TV's Ayub Abdikadio reports on the desperate situation across the country.
These are hard to comprehend images. The aftermath of the heavy rains that have been drenching Nyando and other parts of the country since March. At Ombaka Junior Secondary School in Kakola village, internally displaced locals are camping here. These are traumatizing and grim times for families affected by flooding across the country.
Na wenye wako kwa evacuation center, ningeomba mwalimu awawache hapo, wakae hapo kwa sababu hawana mahali pa kuenda.
Storms and flash floods have swept away their homes, and it's evidently clear that neither they nor the government were prepared for the scale of this disaster.
People are residing in the classrooms. Our classrooms are around 20 to 30 people, but next week we shall use the rooms for learning.
With schools set to reopen next week Monday, and many areas such as Nyando in Kisumu County underwater, the Ministry of Education says it's monitoring the effects of the long rains on education institutions, saying it's collating data to establish readiness for the second term. The ministry requesting all regional directors of education to coordinate submission and work closely with boards of management to ensure schools are ready for reopening. The heavy rains have not only battered Nyando in Kisumu County. It is the same situation in Mwea, the county of Kirinyaga, where powerful floods uprooted trees and washed away homes. And in the midst of this crisis, a heavy rainfall advisory by the Met Department means more flooding and more disaster. And it's painfully obvious that more families will be affected. The heavy rainfall, according to the Met Department, will affect all the 47 counties. The department saying that all the devolved units are areas of concern. The weatherman has warned that the heavy rains will be accompanied by gusty winds, large ocean waves and strong winds in the eastern sector. And with water levels in rivers, lakes and dams set to remain high, the department has advised Kenyans to look out for potential floods, flash floods, poor visibility and to avoid driving or walking through water.
This is our last briefing for the day, and we expect updates from some of you.
At the Kenya Red Cross Coordination Center in Nairobi, staff plan on how to respond to a disaster that is far outpacing their efforts, inundating their capacity.
We have to deploy at least 150 staff and more than 1,800 volunteers to respond to this situation. So all this again is resources which we don't have for now.
This is a natural disaster compounded by poor planning, and ordinary Kenyans are paying for a disaster that could and should have been prevented. A climate extreme that continues to overwhelm efforts by state and non-state actors. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen.
Mr. Wangira, you can take it now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard. How are you?
Great. Karibu. We can get you.
My regards to Lala and Njiru. Let me start by saying that I am dismayed, listening to some of the things that Njiru has said this evening. It's not evening, it's morning. I'm dismayed. For example, when he says that flood ni vitu cheap, I don't understand what he means by flood ni vitu cheap. Bernard, we are talking of a scenario, where we have lost 60 lives. Another 60,000 people in Nairobi today are homeless. And many other thousands are also homeless across the country, Bernard. We are talking of a scenario where we lost a lady in Mathare called Bena Buluma, together with her 2 kids. So, if that is what my brother Njiru is describing as floods maybe to cheap, then, we must be living in 2 different worlds. Bernard, it's very unfortunate that perhaps we have a government that does not care. In other countries, there are countries in this world, even one life lost is one life too many. But here we are talking about 60 people dead. And, it is business as usual. Bernard, last week we lost 10 members of our defense forces, and you saw how the government reacted. We saw how the government reacted when it lost members of their defense. When we lost members of our defense forces, I expected the same reaction in Mathare. It's unfortunate that the person who was rescuing people in Mathare, Bernard, was this young man called Eric Omondi. He's the man we saw rescuing people in Mathare. In Nairobi, we have 2 governments. We have the national government in Nairobi that is headquartered in Nairobi. We have the county government of Nairobi that is in Nairobi under Governor Pakaja. We didn't see them, Bernard. There were people on rooftops for up to 5-6 hours, and the government of Nairobi was doing nothing until we saw Eric Omondi coming in. And again, Bernard, as we face what I'll call a national disaster, Bernard, for a government that cares about its people, today, we could have seen the President of the Republic visiting some of these areas, like in Mathare, like in Kibra, some of those areas that have been affected by floods. But what did we see the President do today? We saw him open a building called Bunge Tower. I'm not trying to demean the opening of Bunge Towers. I know that, our members of parliament need offices from where to operate. But given the scenario in which we are in today, the the opening of 2 Bunge Towers could have waited. And, the president could have been on the forefront of ensuring that, people are safe, people are secure. But what did we see? We saw him opening Bunge Towers. This evening, I understand he has flown to Tanzania where tomorrow you'll be a guest at, the celebration to mark the 60 years since, Tanganyika and Zanzibar united to become the United Republic of Tanzania. After that, I understand it's likely to go to Zimbabwe. You are leaving your country when it's in chaos and you're flying up and down here, Ben. So I really don't understand whether our leaders live in the same country where we live in, and even if they do, whether they understand what the real common man goes through. Because, they seem not to care. They seem not to care at all, at all, at all. 60 people dead, and it's business as usual. 60,000 Nairobians displaced, and it's business as usual. Bernard, I don't think this is the government that the people of Kenya really wanted. It does not matter whether you are in Kenya Kwanza or you are in Azimio. Either way, you are voting that, you are voting for a government that was supposed to have taken good care of you. But what are we seeing? We are seeing a government that does not care. And when I say government, it's both at the national and county level. We have a governor that I understand is more on TikTok than he is in his office, Bernard. So, as a people, we are caught between what we call between a rock and a hard place. We don't know what to actually do. Because already we have this government in place. They are supposed to be doing something, to make things work, but they are not doing anything for us at all. And the nearest we can remove this government from office is 2017. So that's what I am calling between a rock and a hard place, Bernard. That's where most of us are. And it's so unfortunate, Bernard.
2027, I hope you said 17?
I mean 2027. Thank you for correcting me, brother. So it's between today and 2027, brother, that we can remove this government. So between today and 2027, it is between a rock and a hard place because we have people in office who don't care at all, at all, at all. I'm trying to imagine if it was Raila Odinga as president of the Republic of Kenya and Nairobi was facing the floods it's facing today, Raila could have been at the forefront of leading to see that, people are in the best of the places. But that's not what we are seeing with the president today. The president today is, is either at the Bunge Towers or is in Tanzania or is in Zimbabwe, Bernard, when the people of Kenya are suffering, Bernard. So, we are in a very, very sorry state. I don't know who will save us from this particular hard times we are going through. Perhaps we leave it to God. Perhaps it's God now will see us through. I don't see our leaders helping us to come out of this situation, Bernard. Let me just leave it at that and allow somebody else to come in.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Wangira. We appreciate that. Very good outlook on the situation. Thank you so much. Alex Media, I see you. Asante sana. We have missed you. What happened? Karibu tueleze mambo iliendaje. But I appreciate what you are saying. We seem to have a detached PR government that, behaves like the socialites, okay? The slay queen and slay kings who are happy at the flash of camera flash and then, of course, posting. And that's the end of the story. But running of a government requires a sense of responsibility where you feel the pain of the people you are leading. You inconvenience yourself for the sake of the people. What William Ruto is treating Kenyans to, in my opinion, is contempt and it's just disdaining. It's like him. What matters is his office and what his office entails, but the responsibility that comes by reason of him being in office, in safeguarding and securing Kenyans, he's far, far lost from it. And the earlier we begin to embrace that and understand that we don't have somebody in leadership who has the heart and the interest of Kenyans at heart, the better. he has proved over and over. There is enough evidence to point out that it doesn't matter how many. How many people have we buried in Shakahola? 400 plus. But what has William Ruto said about Shakahola? Nothing in terms of even going to Shakahola and just, being there. There is something in leadership that entails that your presence matters much more than your send words. I'm tempted to bring in Apostle Maboya. Apostle Maboya was teaching us on the different attitudes of the fivefold ministry. And he was saying the difference between an evangelist and a pastor. Okay, he said an evangelist is quick to send the word. When he hears that a church member is sick, he goes straight to the psalm that says he sent his word and healed them. Sema sasa tutatuma neno tu, mgonjwa atapona mahali yupo. Tunatuma neno sasa apone. He said that is how an evangelist operate. He says, but if that person is a pastor at heart, he will not be satisfied by sending the word in prayer. He said, you will see him carry his pouch of the Bible and walk, even if it means walking on foot, get into the house of the sick member of the church. He says, I want to know the state of kondo yangu. I cannot be at peace when I hear that one of my members is sick. Then by reason of him walking in reaching the house of the sick member of the church, his presence alone brings some level of healing. You will see even without prayer, the person get out of bed, begins to, recover. Now, there is how leadership is done by, if you don't have to be there, you must send your representatives there. But it is important that you be there. So how can Eric Omondi be in Madare rescuing people? Sakaja is on TikTok or nowhere. Ruto is in Bunge opening a building that has been built for 16 years. The building is not going anywhere. It will be there, until Jesus comes back. Why should he be ignoring the pain of Kenyans and pursuing, clever representation that the government is working and the country is moving? This country is not moving. This country is stuck. For any reason, as a matter of fact, it is drifting back into the dark days where nothing was promised by government. We are quickly getting back to the Moi era, where you are not sure of getting a police abstract. You are not sure to replace your ID. Getting a passport was a matter of going to Karura Forest and fast for 21 days for divine intervention. All those things were buried under Kibaki and Uhuru Kenyatta. But it appears to me, whatever we have in the name of government is a joke of the century. Is a joke of the century. And that is why there are some undertones, okay, about the situation in the country. There are some undertones that is turned Kenya into a laughing stock. We can't hold our head up again. We cannot even brag to our Tanzanian brothers for English. Our English is now detained. They are ahead of us. They launched their electric bullet train the other day. Sisi bado tuna deal na ile tulijengewa na Wahindi in 1901, okay? And then we have added something we're calling SGR. What is going on in this country requires Kenyans to be up in arms. Our tolerance is taking a toll on us. Let's either get this government out of office or get this government to do what it's supposed to do. University students, the liberation of this country, the second liberation, was majorly brought about by university students. What are you doing? Tolerating all this nonsense around. You are sitting back when you see the country going to the dogs. With every passing day, there is nobody in his right thinking who thinks that Kenya is making progress. And so, as a people, we need to wake up and begin to call this government to order. Let's make it impossible for Ruto to govern this country, and he will sit up and do his job or get out of office. Lakini hii maneno ya kusema tumuelewe, tumpatie muda. Sasa tumpatie muda, tutakufa wote kama tunampatia muda. Let's wake up and do what we are required to do. And that is hold this government to account by all means. Na ninyi vijana ambao mnaibiwa, kwa sababu hizi loan zote Ruto anachukua, ninyi ndio mtalipa. Mnafikiria ni nani atalipa? Ni nyinyi ndio mtalipa. Mtaishi kwa magoti yenu miaka yote mkilipa. So msipoamka na kudeclare kwamba lazima hii serikali ifanye kile inapaswa kufanya, la sivyo hakuna kitu kitaendelea katika nchi hii, then you have accepted whatever imprisonment that you are being pushed into by the William Ruto administration. Well, thank you everybody as you join from wherever you are. Thank you the TikTokers, thank you the X followers. You are doing very well. Facebook, tuamke tafadhali, tutekeleze wajibu wetu. Naomba kabla turejelee Reverend Lala tena nikupatie picha nyingine tu ya jinsi masuala ya floods yalivyo katika nchi hii wakati huu. Okay? We have looked at the country as a whole, but let's specifically get to Nairobi. Let's look at Nairobi. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that gives you a picture. Of course, that video is courtesy of BDO. It's not our video, but it gives us a picture of what is going on. That's how dire the situation is. That's how Nairobi looks. And in that kind of a scenario, would you be on the next flight to the next international conference? Reverend Lala.
Um, uh, Bernard is looking at those pictures. It's just heart-wrenching. It's painful to see the kind of suffering that our people are going through when they have been through it. And here is a classical example of a government that has never thought about the welfare of the people. And now that we are in this crisis, Kenyans can basically look at what a dysfunctional government is when we make mistakes and give wrong people, leadership. This is where we are. A president, I'm hearing, is leaving the nation when he should have been coming back to lead the recovery and the management of the crisis, and is leaving town. What has he done? Because this is a case where both county, national government, and county government must work together with the help from outside. International help is needed, and they can only come or give hand when they see you serious. Because to hear I'm going to Tanzania, that to me is shocking. That tells you that we were really wrong not to have stopped this guy from assuming the office. But where we are, nobody else is going to save us. It is you and me that should be able to do it. And right now, I think what we can do is to make sure the suffering of our people are lessened. All of us involved, because we don't have a president. The leader is not there. And in fact, it's more of a problem. I think if Ruto is not there, we could do a better job. The country will run without him. And his presence actually is making things worse. So instead of us going higher, we are digging ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper. I stated something about disaster management. There is any leader coming to the office, the first thing you do is an assessment, and then you try to rearrange your resources and organize yourself. In fact, this is the time that a government is sharper because there's still a new government. You still just organize things and able now to zero in on a disaster like this one. But then here is a classical example where these guys were never ready to lead. And to make matters worse, the people who are full of themselves about their interests. So they are, instead of helping people, they are playing politics, or they are doing their own businesses. And look at such a time. I think it's Korea. I've read something about the doctors that he will not give them any money. Let him be told that doctors spend years, 7 years, even more, to have earned that title of an intern. An intern is a qualified doctor. They only need some little practice. It's like if you got a driver's license, you're a driver, but you may need to work under somebody else to work with you. And all countries globally depend on those resident and interns. They are the ones that run the show. Okay, without them, nothing would be moving forward in the medical field. So they do all the work. I think I shared with you some time back that I live in a large medical city. So we have a lot of doctors, coming from Africa. And when they meet their fellow residents here, because the ones that are residents here have not done as much work experience as theirs coming from Africa, from Kenya, Uganda. And so when they tell them that they've done brain surgery, they've done stomach, they've done heart, they've done everything, because they are the only doctors in those hospitals. They do everything. So this so-called specialization is just a luxury in the West or other places. For them, it's the doctor. That's the one, the DR. They make all decisions when it comes to medical services, and they do it. And Kenyans must be told, doctors work. They work. And because they work, they don't have a second job, another business, because those residents basically work more than any of those politicians. They work hard. And so if they're asking for 200,000 and after 7 years of hard work, and then you give an MCA over 400 with the other job they have on the side, their businesses and everything on the side, it's a travesty. It's actually sin, the worst sin of its kind. I live in the US. Okay, the starting salary of a doctor is around between 110, 140 there. Okay, that's the starting. That's the intern salary, and that is almost the same as the congressman or the senator. Senator makes 175. You can Google. So basically, a starting doctor and a senator earn the same thing. So if we want to compare, go and Google and compare, in ratios. What does an MP make or a CS make? Okay, now compare to the intern who are only asking for 200,000. Okay, I think 200,000 Kenyan shillings. Okay, now if you pay a CS or a senator who has another job, an MP who has another job, they just come there and work for a few hours. They still have law firms. They do all these things, and then you are denying this man who cannot do anything else but to serve in the hospital. They have got no time for anything, even for themselves. These people literally sleep in the hospital. The one I know. Okay, so it is insane. It is heartlessness. It is wrong for CS and Kenya and the Ruto government to say no to this doctor. Actually, 200,000 is a very small change for what they have gone through and where they are and what they are doing. So I'm with the doctors, and every Kenyan should be mad, because these are the people who will save us from this catastrophe we are in. Who would we look for when somebody is sick? We go to the doctor. And they are what Afanya Magendo, they will treat you, even the corrupt doctor will take care of you. So Kenyans, we must look at people who are contributing to the welfare of the nation. They are the doctors. And so when they're asking for just a minimum, and these are interns, these are not people, because somebody I think wrote somewhere that these are students. These are not students. These are doctors. They have DR, behind their names. Okay, they are MDs. They are whatever the titles we give them. These are people who should be honored, respected, and made. It's as if with 70,000 that you want to give them, this doctor will have to wait for a matatu to come to work, and can't pay for their rent. I mean, it's ridiculous. What a shame that a country such as Kenya would do something like this. But it seems as if we are going down and down. And so that's my contribution, Bernard. Let somebody else come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Lala. Thank you. And just to put that in proper perspective, the 70,000 offer, it is the government walking away from what they signed. The 206,000 was signed in the CBO in 2017. They are supposed to honor that. They cannot come back 7 years later and say they cannot pay the 206. They can afford 70. Who does that? If they don't have enough money, they should look for the money, not look for how to crucify doctors. Like there is an explicit explainer or kicker given by Yvonne Okwara. He's talking about it is better to be a CAS than to be a doctor. It's better to be an MP than to be a doctor. It's better to be an MCA than to be a doctor. Why should we degenerate to these levels? Kenyans, let's safeguard the professions that mean life and death. The doctors on Tuesday are on the street. Let them not be on the street alone. Let Kenyans join them, and let's make this country ungovernable until Ruto and team are ready to do what they are supposed to do or vacate office. Thank you. Tumlete Alex, karibu, hali vipi? Siku mingi.
Siku mingi, asante sana
Well,
Bernard.
I miss you, my brother. I'm good to see you.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. I miss that mind, one of the best mind I think we have. Thank you.
A soil that is well rested gives a bountiful crop. Sometimes you need to rest. And for me, yes, I agree with what Bernard you have said. On Tuesday, the doctors need not to be alone because, you see, healthcare is going to be expensive on us because they can decide to do what the US does. They can form a group of doctors and decide just to go private. And there is nothing that the government can do. If somebody has already finished their workload, I think it's 7 years to work for the government before you set up your own your own private firm. And I think other doctors will be able to work through thick and thin with the doctors who are older. And we are going to paralyze what is called the public hospitals. And if we do that, you understand that that will be the first failure because something like healthcare should not be politicized at any point. Education should never be politicized at any point. And we have seen now those two key areas, agriculture, healthcare, and education, are being politicized to the highest more than other areas. And that is the key failure of Ruto. The other thing that Bernard has said, I think Islala has said, is when you hear the name intern, some people think that an intern is a person who is still in school. No, interns are the young doctors who just like before they finish 7 years of, it's sort of a residency, like in here in the US, we have residency. And that's why they are called interns, but they have already done what it takes for them to be even specialists. The other hard question we must ask is when we went and outsourced the Cuban doctors, how much were we paying them? And how did we, as a country, be able to afford to pay them? You bring somebody from Cuba, you're able to pay them more than 1 million, you give them security, you give them cars, you give them everything. Yet we are not able to pay our own. So for one Cuban doctor, if you put 70,000, 10 of them is 700,000. And then you put 210, that's another 3. So for 13 doctors, Kenyans, one Cuban specialist is paid. And when you factor in other things like housing, security, car, driver, people, the workers that are working for him, then it doesn't beat logic that that number can even come to 1.5. And when you put it over 70,000, you find that one doctor versus our 20 doctors, actually 21 doctors, and then we start acting like we don't have money. I mean, that is a mispriority, and we cannot agree into it. So if we had like 100 doctors who are Cuban that came here, and you factor that of 15 doctors, then you put under, that is almost 1,500 interns. So you want to tell me that you can't afford our own interns by paying them 206? And remember, even that CBO, Bernard, you're talking about, it was a negotiation that they lost because they didn't want that 206,000. They wanted more. But because they were prevailed over, they agreed into it because the government accepted that offer. They said that is what we can afford. So it was not a projected amount by the doctors. It was the government that offered it. And that is why, for me, I support the doctor. In spite and despite of the deaths that are happening because of non-medical reasons, I can tell you that when a doctor goes to let's say a surgeon goes inside a surgery room, he is not able to come out of that surgery room until he finishes the surgery, which can take 12 hours. And you know, these people are under salary. They are not paid by time. So you can imagine how much time these people take inside the surgery room, or the amount that they take so small when now they are seeing people in the hospital. You know, daktari anakuja tu hivi, anasign, wanaongea na, you know, nurse practitioner or maybe a nurse, huyo ako hivi, anasign, anaenda kwa mwingine. Why? Because he doesn't have time. He's supposed to attend more than 300 patients a day. What can he do? He will not give you services. His part is just to sign and leave the nurse to do the rest because the workload is too much. If you look at here, the way they are structured, nurses cannot handle more than 13 patients. It is 13 patients for a nurse. A nursing assistant, it is also the same. But a doctor can be, because of specialties and anything, they can be given up to 5-6 cases only. So I think there's mispriorities in our country. And the other thing is the political expediency that we are seeing. I mean, honestly, Kenya has money from the look of everything. And that is what Barack Muluka was saying the other day, you know, neoliberal gangsters. Somebody is buying a 10 million watch, you know, 700,000 suit, you know, 300,000 shoes, and who knows the underwear and the vest and the rest, how much they cost. And then the person is literally wearing 20 million in front of you, and then he starts telling you, wait. I mean, what's sarcastic? It's just incomprehensible. So what we are actually saying this time around, if you want to put this country in order, you must understand that there is no order in the government. These people had no plan at all. The people that were given positions were not technocrats who are able to save the country from any peril. You can look at even these floods that are happening right now. You know, I've worked with FEMA before through my trucking company. When there is flooding in a certain area, the American Corps of Engineers will come with sand and make sure that where those floods are coming from, imezibwa kwanza. But we are just seeing boats. We are not seeing where sand is being taken to prevent where those floods are coming from. Now you ask your question. The other time we had fires in Embakasi. The multitask force that was put there, what did it do? Nothing. So this issue of being lied that they are multitask force, and that's the same thing with Shakahola. Until today, we've never got a report, and we are hearing deaths and deaths and deaths. Look, how long are you going to wait to die before? You know, you think it's your neighbor. You just think it's your neighbor or another person it will happen to. The chicken will come home to roost. For us, we made noise in 2021, 2022. We made a lot of noise. Tukajulikana Kenya mzima, tukajulikana the whole world through Mutembei. Tulipiga kelele na tukaambia watu, this is what is going to happen. Many young people refused to listen. Many of them, they could not even listen. They could not even understand. Yani kwao ilikuwa ni hadithi tunasema. Now that it's unfolding, what should I do? Should I still complain? No, I'm not going to complain, man. As long as I go, once I've eaten, my problems are over. I'm not thinking about Kenya anymore. Let people handle what they can so that they can come and understand that politics is the way of life. Politics is not voting. The person that is in that office dictates what happens in a country. Politics is not voting. Like Mutai Ngunyi say, yesterday we voted, today it's different. And that is the difference we are having. You see, if you look at the people that were cheering that Raila had lost, people like Aoko Ekuru, they wrote things that were very bitter into it. Look at Mohammed, this lawyer, Mohammed Al-Nasir. He wrote, you see tons of people that were happy. Look at Boni Alwale today. He's so frustrated. He's in a party that he knows very well, that his ideology and philosophy does not fit. Look, even this Didmas Baraza, the person who we will not even find, he's so frustrated because he understands that the country is not going in the right direction. Look at his own people. They are crying. The people who swore and said this is a hero. They are so embarrassed. You know, this personality politics or tribeman politics, you know, when administration starts, it's not one. Look at Kabarak and look at where Uhuru comes. They have had a president twice. If you go there, the kind of poverty that's still there can only tell you that tribalism is not the solution when you go to vote. It has to go larger than that. But the issues of floods must have gone like yesterday if we had the right leader. If you have the right leader. And now because we don't have leaders, we have eaters, and that will continue. And if we don't wake up out of this deep slumber, still more is going to happen. Assassinations have started. We see a young man, you think, and I need to know if that young man was adopted, because I don't think a real son, I don't think my son can talk like that in my funeral. If I really molded him like that. We need to know if that son was adopted, because these are things that we must tell Kenyans. That's not a son. When we hear our own children start talking, things like that, the country, Bernard, I will burn my sons before I die. If that's what they will say in my funeral, Bernard, it has reached where that we used to say it is sad for parents to bury their own kids. But Bernard, now it is sad for parents, for kids to bury their own kids, because these kids, we don't know what they will say in our funerals. They are laughing at our funerals.
Mwana umleavyo ndivyo akuavyo. Wewe anza kurekebisha ya kwako mapema.
You know, the rate at which we are degenerating, Bernard, it is so fast that sometimes you ask, did I watch this right? Now you start paletting to other medias to make sure that this is not false. Bernard, this country has gone too far. It has gone to our bedrooms, it has gone to our dining rooms, it has gone to our sons and our daughters. You talk of the pursuit of excellence when assassination has just happened. What is that? Bernard, we are a lost generation. My generation is not lost, but the current generation, 20s and 30s, Bernard, it's totally lost. If they cannot do an overhaul, we are going to have jokers like in Ukraine, we are voting comedians. In Seychelles, we are voting DJs. Next in Kenya, we are going to vote a Mkokoteni guy. And watch the space. Let me leave it there.
Wow, thank you, Alex. We get you and hear you well. And that is the true picture, unfortunately. That's the true picture of what we are faced with. We seem to have a generation of young people that have either zero sense of responsibility, or they just choose not to be responsible, and they think someone else is to blame for what is going on, and someone else will come to their rescue. All in all, it's important that we bring all of these people into proper understanding. I think if there is any investment we need to make right now, is to get these people reschooled, retrained, and re-educated, because they seem to have left school with nothing in terms of life skill and life responsibility. I think the Kenyan society has over-glorified certificates and exams and forgot human and personal development in the course of schooling. Different from when we were going to school. That's why I always use the phrase, I went to school when school was still school. Our teacher will not let you have a bad attitude, even if you're getting A's. He will follow you up, correct that bad attitude, because it will make you fail the final exam. So if you have anger issues, the teacher will squeeze you until that anger issue is dealt with. If you have, carelessness, he will put you on toes until that carelessness is dealt with. So they were holistic teachers, not just filling you with academic mind that scores A's, but your character is 0. And so we have a lot on our hands right now, but more urgently is the kind of examples we are giving to our children. If the best example we have in this country as the #1 man in this country is Ruto, we are done. If the best example of member of parliament we have is Kina Moses Kuria, is Kina Sudi, is Kina this, people who I saw who Jalango claiming that Ruto's decisions and the choices have yielded results. Now the dollar is 133. Somebody said, I think it was Wekesa. Those of you remember Wekesa. He said, this is another one from Congo. Because if this is how he's reasoning and he's a member of parliament, he's another one from Congo. There is something very wrong with this country and we must fix it. Thank you very much. Naomba tafadhali kabla nimlete mama, I'm sure she's ready. I want us to play this video for Jamila. She went into length to give us what an intern is, okay? Compared to what Moses Kuria understand an intern is in terms of doctors. And this is the misinformation or the ignorance that we have placed to power. Somebody is so ignorant that he doesn't understand what an intern doctor is, yet is a CS in the Ruto government. Hey, help us.
A common saying goes, if you're shouting, you're losing the argument. The same adage also guides on the rules of a debate. And the golden rule is, do not demean your opponent. Some of these things are also just about basic manners. Do not insult your opponent just because you're not winning the argument. So I noticed that Public Service CS Moses Kuria does not think medical interns are all that. In fact, he insinuates that they have not even sat for exams. He says they have just done CATs, continuous assessment tests. In belittling interns, Moses Kuria stopped short of suggesting the bunch has nothing to do with medicine in the first place. Now, the CS may be well guided that this is exactly how to sound when you're losing an argument. Make those interns sound small. They're not small enough? Then make them smaller. Any of them tall? Make them short. Reduce them to miniature medical interns. Make them as distant as possible to the title and role of doctor. And if you can, fold them in candy wrappings. And you do have a nearby trash can, right? Throw them in there. Again, CS, this is exactly how to sound when you're losing an argument. And did I hear you say that you'll never pay them as long as you're CS? Well, some of them may tell you they're struggling with where you come in the first place. All demonstrations have somehow avoided your office and ended up in Upper Hill, where the Ministry of Health is based. Clearly, these little people have no sense of direction. Small they must be. Or they may just be accurate on which desk should address their issue. And that is the Ministry of Health. Now, after the remarks by the CS, I decided to just find out who these interns are and what really constitutes a medical intern. And this is what I found out. Medical interns are new medical graduates who have attained 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. The training takes a minimum of 6 years, after which they are assessed by senior doctors and external examiners. They are then certified as competent to practice as medical doctors. The interns are posted by the Ministry of Health to either government hospitals, faith-based ones, or sometimes private hospitals. This is where the interns are much needed and actually regarded as proper doctors by those they treat. They are licensed by the Kenya Practitioners and Dentists Council to practice medicine in those institutions they have been posted to. As a medical intern, you are licensed. The license is given from the first day, and there is no employment without that license to practice as a medical doctor for the duration of the internship, which is usually 1 year. This means they are recognized by the necessary regulatory bodies as having the qualification to practice as doctors. During that year, the interns practice under the supervision of consultants. An intern works on a day-to-day basis with patients, some doing night and day duty. A doctor tells me when he was an intern, for that 1 year, he barely slept in his bed. There was no time to even remove his shoes or get a blanket. He would fall asleep on the sofa, and his sleep would be cut short by a call from the hospital. Kuna emergency, njoo haraka. Their shifts are crazy. An intern can work for up to 72 hours or even more. Interns are the first one you encounter at the hospital. The consultant comes for the ward rounds and gives input in terms of experience and expertise in such situations, but the ones who man the hospital and see patients are the interns. The doctor I spoke to says during the 3-month rotations they do, he only saw the consultant twice. In another instant, the pediatric consultant resigned in the beginning of the rotation, and he was left alone with no one to direct him. He made it by reading and trying to figure out things for himself. After this 1 year of supervision, these doctors can now apply for licenses to practice without consultant supervision. And then after all that, to say they're just students and not medical interns, to say they've only done cuts and are no different from interns in other fields, is just plain insulting. Belittling and rubbishing all that they go through to be called a medical doctor should not be tolerated or encouraged. Of course, one may wish to understand that the CS is trying to cut a profile of a medical intern fit for the 70,000 shillings remuneration proposed by the government, as opposed to the 200,000 shillings the doctors' union are demanding. But I think the CS is overworking to make the interns small, and that may take long, and may indeed be the most wasteful part of the conflict between the government and the doctors. And that is my memo.
Ladies and gentlemen, if that doesn't paint the right picture for you to understand that we have jokers in the seat of honor, then I don't know what can. But the Bible says that he has seen one thing evil under the sun, that the slave or the servant is seated on the horseback, but the prince or the king is the one walking on feet. That situation seems to be in Kenya right now. Kenyan maandamano kamili. Mami, karibu, hali vipi?
Nzuri sana Bernard, nasalimia wote. Cowboy number 2, you are back. Welcome back. Nice to see you. Lala, I think you're good there. I heard you. And my dear sister, Julia, and Bernard, good work and good job for all the time you take to stand there and listen to us and give us a chance to challenge these people who are really jokers, that they are really playing games for our country. And I hope you can hear me well.
Exactly.
Can you hear me? Thank you.
You are safi kabisa.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes I'm hearing like on your side, like there is bumps. But anyway, I go ahead. I'm just on a walk, so I'm going back to the house. But I'll say my points. I heard cowboy number 2 saying about tribalism, which I believe is just a cover up. Hold on. I think it's just a cover up for someone just to camouflage with the tribal, so that country, because he is really misleading people. Sababu, as I have cowboy number 2 say about these people, how they get to the government and then use tribal cards. And yet when you go where they come from, people are dying because of poverty. We would wish if they are using that tribal card, we see evidence of how good they are with their people. But these people are very selfish and very mean. They have done a lot of damage instead of good. Development is never in their area. It's just about themselves, while they lie to all these people. I talk about again something about, I saw a picture, and I'm sorry to take you guys back where we don't want to mourn again, although we are still mourning about Ogola. You see this guy, the way he is handling with the Eileen, the wife of Ogola. I was shocked. And I said, this is not how we respect a family. And I expected Rachel, the wife of the fake president, would be the one holding that lady the way this man was holding her. And when you look at that picture, you see this Ruto holding that lady, and that picture of Ogola put there, looking sharply on, somebody just made that picture like that Ogola is just looking at that man holding his wife. And I wondered if this guy would wake up and see the behavior, really, he would see no respect and no moral, no remorse at all to this. I felt so painful again when I saw that picture. And I said, there is no dignity, there's no respect. And I wondered why even this guy would move all that far, holding that lady that tight. And the wife of his is behind him. And then you imagine what has gone on or what has transpired about Ogola passing. It's very painful. Now you see, you wonder, what are these people really thinking? We are going to be fooled until when we die. It's very painful for me too, because I looked at that picture and I compared something happening, similar thing happening to me or somebody else. What would you feel? It was really a very ugly picture to see. About crisis in Kenya. Richard, I'll say that Kenya has really been neglected for a long time. And this time round is the worst time we can ever talk about our country. It has been talked slowly by slowly. Oh, Nairobi imekuwa chafu, Nairobi wezi wamezidi, Nairobi mambo imeharibika, business imeharibika. Look at what is happening now. And the guy is flying from one country to the other. And that is his moves. Every time there is a disaster or any problem in Kenya, he is not within the country. Who is he to Kenyans? How comes that we can have such a slug guy who don't care? So I wonder, who is the person to organize the rescue of the country? Who should be the first person to say, no, this is what we're going to do. These people should go this side to rescue this, and these others should go this way, and this should happen. Who should be saying that? I don't care whether there is a government or governors or senators or MPs. I don't care about that. I care of the directives that comes from the top, and we don't have any in our country. There's nothing. The only thing we have is arrogancy, ignorance, and pride in the country for those who have. And now look at the doctors, as I have listened to what that lady really explained so well. Who are supposed to have papers, apart from doctors who go and do surgery to people, critical treatments and all this? Those guys have worked so hard to get where they are. But those who are in the office right now, who cannot even talk English, however, English is a language that we really need in our country because it was there since then. People who cannot know what is next, what is the other step, so that to do the right thing, they are the ones who are in the office trying to curtail, to criticize these people, these doctors who have been in school for this long to attain their certificate. What certificates do these guys have so that they can stand there and start criticizing doctors? What can they teach doctors? They have nothing they can tell doctors. Doctors take care of critical people, sick people, and heavenly sake, they get well. These people are just milking the country, whereby even those doctors have got no people to treat because people cannot afford to go to the hospital. When they go to the hospital, there's no medicine. What will those doctors do? I believe doctors are on the move on Mandamano for many issues, not even about their pay. I cannot be in an office where there is no pen, there is no paper, there is no light, there is no desk, there is nothing which I really need to do my work. It's impossible. I can't be in that office. So these doctors are going through so much. They want to have apparatus. They want to have updated machines to deal with the sickness, with the diseases that are in our country. But now they have been left. They are not paid well. They are not supplied with the equipment. What are they going to do? So these doctors should fight for many fields, many lines. We don't have medicine. We don't have machines. We don't have equipment. We don't have anything that really makes us able to treat people. So when I see Kuria talking there, it is all nonsense. But you know what? What we have come to realize is that these people have gotten enough money. They have a lot of money. They can say anything. Kuna mzee moja alikuwa amenunua Mercedes. I'll give you a small story. Mzee moja alikuwa amenunua Mercedes. Na ni mzee, si kijana. Akaenda nayo barabarani anaendesha. Pahali alifika akakuta mzee mmoja amesimama kando ya barabara, akamsimamisha. Akamwambia, unataka nini? Nilikuwa nakuuliza kama unaweza nibeba uniweke town hiyo unaenda. Na amesimama, akamwangalia akamwambia, you know what? Pale DT Dobi nimeacha Mercedes kama hii, kwa hivyo uende ununue yako. He rolled the mirror, the window, na akaondoka akaenda. Huyu mzee alipata matatu ikakuja, by good luck. After that one went, matatu ikakuja, mzee akasimamisha akapanda. Do you know what? When they took off, they did not go even 2 kilometers. The guy had gotten an accident. This is a real story. Amepata accident. Hao watu wenye walikuwa kwa matatu na huyu mzee ndio walichukua huyo mtu wampeleke hospital akiwa hata hajiwezi. Those are things that we should learn from. So when people are just enjoying their life because they have gotten what they wanted, or they have reached a point whereby they feel money is their everything, just watch. It is hard for Kenyans right now, the way they are suffering because of these people from the top to the bottom of those people who are in this government. That is the way it is. Sudi is there with no papers, ambaye alikuwa na karatasi certificate ina namba iliyofuatiliwa ikaonekana ni ya msichana, and still he is a senator trying to challenge even Ogola, somebody who have gone with the jet fighters and everything. Sudi is there to criticize him and to say just useless and nonsense utterances. So Wakenya tuko kwa shida, lakini hii shida ni sisi tutajitoa. Nobody else will take us out of there. Mimi nitaachia hapo. Daktari waendelee na maandamano na wananchi wa join, walimu wa join, because everywhere there is nothing is working. So everything is dying. Nimeona Wakikuyu huko, kuna mtu mmoja alikuwa anaongea anasema this generation is being finished, and it is true. We have seen those pastors who have been given money to recruit young men who have gone to church, maybe to church, and they have got that kind of using language of Christianity so that they can attract those boys or young ladies and young boys. Now they have recruited them. They have paid millions of monies, but these pastors have disappeared. Those guys who have paid hundreds of thousands, they have nowhere to go. They did not even cross the river. They are still in the country suffering and having covered all this money. What are we going to do? Our country is dying. We are all victims, and it is really painful. Thank you so much, Bernard, for the chance. Nawashukuru kwa kunisikiza.
Asante. Thank you, Mami. It's indeed sad and too confusing at times, because as a country, it appears we make one step forward, then make three backward. As a people, we just need to come to terms. If we don't know what a country is, we should go and redefine it. If we don't know how a country should be governed, we need to ask, Google, just get the right information so that when there is a call to hold the government to account, you know what you're engaging in. This level of mistreatment that we are being treated to at all levels is uncalled for. And of course, now the doctors, I'm happy that they are back to square one. The whatever Nahumicha and team were trying to put up has collapsed. And we are in for another, painful for those who are seeking medical care. But this country needs to be fixed. And for it to be fixed, it's going to be painful. But as Kenyans, we must be resilient, gather our courage, keep strong until we deliver this country once and for all. Just before I bring in Julia, let me do some housekeeping. One, we require you to subscribe to both our YouTube channels. Please, we need you to subscribe. If you have not subscribed, it is important. We have of late ran into issues with YouTube, and so we require you to be a subscriber to both channels to remain on the cutting edge. Secondly, we have a Sound Candid Talk blog where we have very well-researched articles that go into details in reporting in some of these things. And we will also encourage you to subscribe to the blog, visit it and read it out. I think you will find it very fascinating and, of course, better detailed than because of the constraint of time here. We don't go into much details in proving some of the things we say. And so we encourage you to visit the site and just check it out and, of course, recommend it to someone. It is Sound Candid Talk, one word, soundcandidtalk.blogspot.com. soundcandidtalk.blogspot.com. The moment you click on it, it will take you to the blog and you will begin to see the articles there on current affairs as well as some just necessary information you need in your definition and looking at our politics. Because one of the things that our politicians take advantage of is the ignorance of the masses. And they capitalize on it by keeping information from the masses, keep them guessing, and in the process, they get away. Now look the way they are treating the demise of the CDF. There is a video I promised you I'll be sharing from Chris Kumekucha, and he gives a hint on what exactly is going on with the military since the demise of the CDF. That is not the picture the Kenya Kwanza administration is painting. They are working very hard to keep Kenyans from looking at it from that angle. And so please, I encourage you, go to this particular site, subscribe or log in so that you will always be notified every time we put an article. But there are a lot of them. I think we have almost close to 100 articles already. So usikose kwa kutoingia hapo. The only challenge we have, we cannot post the link on Facebook. There is a way Facebook has blocked the posting of Blogspot. I don't know why. And so we will share the link on YouTube. And of course, so click on it. Please go to the place. Check it out. I'm sure you will love it. And then from there, we will be able to interact further. And then also we want to alert you that as we are getting to the end of the month, we are still paying our bills. We want you to continue doing as we have always done, faithfully. Don't be wary. We must keep in this race, and to keep in this race, we must keep going. And so, of course, let's all encourage each other to be strong. Our main channel has been put off for 2 weeks. I think we have suffered a strike for 21 days in a row in 1 month. And that has affected even the performance of the main channel. If I can give you the maths, okay? The backup channel has more views now than the main channel, despite the fact that the main channel has more subscribers than the backup channel. And so we have been affected by reason of being inactive for those 21 days. So we encourage you to help as many people to rejoin and rekindle and reactivate their membership of the channel and help us grow the channel. I believe when you come here, you get something that helps you make sense of our politics and in some way ease your stress by reason of hearing Kenyans talk. So please, let's build up Sound Candid Talk. Let's make it profitable, and we will be able to be a blessing to our world as well as shape the opinion of this country in the right direction. Nimlete Julia mbio akatoe maoni yake, and then public participation. Hata masandio haya na katika. Naomba Stone PK kama uko area, anza kujiandaa kuja. Julia, welcome.
Asante Bernard, good to see you. Good to see Alex. Hey Alex, long time. Ungekuwa hapa as we analyze the issue of Ogola. We were so stressed, and I think a lot is still going on. I think Bernard will update us. And I don't know whether I saw somebody saying that Ruto had 2 teams of investigation in quotes. Sijui hiyo ilitoka wapi. I don't know how that true is. So maybe you'll still know more exactly what happened. Now I'm very sad again to see what's happening in Nairobi, the floods, and I saw Eric Omondi in a boat. Bernard, what is the government exactly? What is exactly the government doing? Because sijaona kwa media. I'm trying to look up to see whether there are measures they have taken or what measures they have taken. Because if I recall the days of COVID, Mutahi Kagwe was every day giving instructions and counter instructions. Paka Wakenya walimchukia. Lakini ukiangalia zile steps walichukua na Uhuru, that prevented the spread so much. Okay, one of the things that really irritated Kenyans ni curfew. the other thing that irritated Kenyans was, okay, that one did not irritate them, but it helped. The thing of not going home to our old people. I remember my grandmother who passed away last year was still alive. And my aunt takes care of her. And kwa granny kulikuwa na curfew, asitembelewe na mtu yoyote. She had a house help who was not free to mingle. So the house help was stuck with her. And they could be, auntie would buy her them food. And I can imagine if such a person was exposed, angeenda too. So the fact that Uhuru and Mutahi gave instructions and counter instructions and all that, Kenya, we cannot keep our space. First, because we use public transport and our schools. But even the schools, I was asking about the schools, they really took so many measures in the schools. Like, the measures were extreme. And therefore, even if we had a few thousand people, I don't think there were more than 5,000 people who died in Kenya. I think Kenya really handled it. At that time, my son dared to go home. Unajua hao vijana wasikiangi maneno. They think they know it all. And then when he arrived home, he went to see his dad. So when he arrived home, akashikwa, sijui alikula maembe ama alikula nini, akashikwa na tonsils, na he had fever. And when he was taken to the hospital, rumors was that this boy lives in the US. This boy has just arrived here. This boy must be having COVID. This boy, it was like, test him. But I'm telling you, as they were testing, first they took the father and the boy, wakafungia. Wakasema, hamtembei, hamuongei na watu, hamkuli na watu. Wakawekwa kwa hospitali. Then, but as they were investigating whether he had COVID, they handled his fever, his throat infection with speed and accuracy. So when the phone calls I was getting, hata kama huyu mtoto angekuwa na COVID, it could not have affected him. Because ile emergency rescue alifanywa, it was too fast. It was so very fast. So when I looked at that, when the boy came back and was telling me what had happened, I thought Kenya even beat US in the way they were handling COVID. Because that boy arrived and had symptoms, taken to the hospital, secluded, na mwenye amemchukua kwa gari, both of them secluded. Then next step, the boy is put on antibiotics, just in case he has chest infections, just in case kifua yake ifungane, just in case, just in case his fever overcomes him. And even as we're investigating whether he had COVID, I mean, by the time they proved to see COVID in maembe ni amekula maninini, whatever he's reacting to, the boy was safe, and everybody else around him was safe. So when I thought about it, I just said, this Kenya, because Hapa, where I'm living, Bernard, I saw numerous ambulances picking people, and that is dead people. Because in the US, Alex can agree with me, those days, if you suspected you had COVID, ulikuwa unaambiwa ukae nyumbani. How can you tell a sick person to leave, to stay at home? And most people here live alone, like old people. So anakaa nyumbani, kifua inajifunga. I mean, those people just die. Bernard. So me, from my point of view, Kenya really handled COVID in a super way. Now, why am I saying this? I'm asking myself about the flood situation. You people, you tell me, public participation, I think, is here. And Bernard, you'll just tell us, please tell us exactly what is happening. First and foremost, now we are bound to be afraid of cholera outbreak. What is the government doing about that? Now, Bernard, I was very sad. I saw people on rooftops. I mean, I don't want to think that is my country. I don't know what the government is doing about that. And I think a lot of people are still missing. And now when the rains are said to be increasing, they'll be going on. So what are we doing about the dams, the Masinga dams and the Kidaruma dams, and even this dam that collects water for Nairobi City? What is the government doing about the people living around there? Now, in some counties, like I think Mount Elgon and Mount Kenya region, There will be bound to be landslides. Is the government proactive to prevent more deaths from landslides? I don't know, Bernard, you tell us. Meanwhile, our tourist president is touring. Hiyo ni mkutano gani ameenda? I mean, must he go to every meeting? My conclusion is State House akukaliki. Kwa sababu gani? This postal election, like Bernard, you said, they did not plan to be president. They did not plan to take the government. Or ni kama mtu kijana ameimpregnate msichana wenyewe na juangi maneno ya mtoto na bibi inaendanga aje. That is how they are behaving. So Bernard, it is very sad. I don't know what Kenyans. I saw Baba call some meeting, and I saw Baba raise some money towards the affected. But I don't know how far that one can go, because these people need shelter, people need beddings, people need food, people need clothes. I think this one should be declared as disaster, a national disaster. It is just like, it is worse than terrorism, because it is affecting many and thousands of Kenyans. So I don't know, Bernard, whether you know anything the government is doing. I don't know. I was trying to look up. Sijaona anything. Na sijui kama natarajia anything, because as usual, our tourist president is touring. Now, as for Kuria, I don't know. Kuria is speaking the doctors as who? Can someone help me? Has he become the assistant minister for health, or anaongea kama nani akisema ati as long as he's a minister? Now, you see, the sad thing or the good thing is that hakuna mtu anaishi hapa duniani eternity. I mean, all of us will go. So why is Kuria swearing and thumping his chest? We have had very many ministers. In fact, in Moi's government, we had several deputy vice presidents. Hata sijui ni wangapi, hata sijui kulikuwa na Karanja, sijui kulikuwa na Saitoti. They came and went. Sasa Kuria nasema nini? Tena tumekuwa na serikali ngapi? Serikali zimekuja na zikaenda. Come on. What is this arrogance? There's a saying that goes, I don't know whether it's the Bible, pride goes before the fall. Lakini pia Mswahili anasema aliye juu mngojea chini. So I hope the Lord can hear the prayers of Kenyans. If these people cannot live, may the Lord bring them down. And may the curse of Nebuchadnezzar and Absalom follow them. Let's everybody say amen. Asante, Bernard.
Amen. Thank you, Julia. Our tourist president, before he took off, he put together what he's calling multi-agent response team for the floods. And that is all I had. He was in a hurry. He put that multi-agents group together, told them to take care of the floods, and then he went to open the Bunge Tower, and then off he left. I'm happy that you brought up the way Uhuru and his cabinet handled COVID. We are not seeing anything closer to that. We have not gotten any briefing. A story about the dead who are reported dead, the 60. We're getting it from the media, and the media seem to have more information than the government as far as this flood is concerned. And it's all because of the negligence. What Ruto is doing is run away from responsibility. Yani kuna ile ya ku pretend, okay? The ostrich game. Is playing the ostrich game that these things will solve themselves. And then, of course, push that narrative that the economy is recovering and things like that. I believe this meddling with Ogola is turning out to be more poisonous than it was envisioned. And like you said, the State House is becoming very difficult to stay in. That's why he's looking for any excuse to go anywhere. House of Heru says Zakayo, I bet, has gone to Congo and Zimbabwe so that he can make a food deal from his farm to sell Kenyans cause of the flooding has destroyed the produce. No, this is one of the things that is happening. Remember that fertilizer has affected the crops. Most of the mahindi that was planted with fake fertilizer has gone yellow. That means there are no yields. And so that's created to create a market for the, of course, the Congo and Zimbabwe grown maize for William Ruto. And so what William Ruto sees Kenyans to be are just customers. Customers wa kuuzia vitu na kutengeneza hela. Look at the situation. The story ya mvua ilitangazwa kitambo na watu wa meteorological department. Wakasema kutakuwa na mvua mingi na hii mvua italast mpaka first quarter of the new year. That was in the picture. Instead of Ruto, Sakaja and team to put up dams so that they can harvest the water, what did they go? To build affordable housing. So the affordable housing, some of it is being now carried by the water and the roads are impassable. The situation is bad. And like you said, the outbreak of cholera, Mr. Ngige says cholera, malaria, bilharzia will be the order of the day. It is bad news. And so I'm yet to get any official briefing by the government other than that construction of that multi-sector, multi-agents response team. But from the look of things, there are not any multi-agents in terms of getting credible information because we need to have governors there, especially from the affected counties. We have almost all the 47 counties affected by this flood. So this is exactly a national disaster, a national crisis. But the approach that is being given, it is let's ignore the rains, let's ignore the people in the floods. They will swim themselves to safety and they will organize their lives by themselves. And so it's so annoying and so painful that people who are drawing a salary to take care of Kenyans are doing zero in taking care of Kenyans, but milking Kenyans to death to keep their lifestyle, that the lavish lifestyle that they have done nothing to warrant. That is how things look. Maybe public participation has more on the same. Public participation, if you're there, please come in.
Thank you, Bernard. How are you guys? Julia and Alex Media and everyone who is on the comment section. Yeah, so of course the Met department already had said a while back, but you remember Zakayo coming and again saying that I don't know, they had prayed about it and you know, something to that effect, that it was not going to happen because of prayers. You see, the problem, particularly in Nairobi, 65% of the population is living in slums. And these slums, most of them are in areas which are around rivers like Madare, and others are in low-lying areas. So, you know, areas which are not meant to be for residential. So, and then you know that the structures which are usually, excuse me, in slums, usually mabati, they are mabati, most of them, and it's a big crisis because I was even seeing on the news that the bodies, let's not even talk about now cholera, but corpses. There are so many corpses because this water is coming at night when people are in the houses, and they sweep the people out of the house and into the waters, and then the bodies just go. And they're having, actually I've seen a man who has lost like almost his entire family. I think he was maybe working at night and he had left his family at home, and they were carried by the water. So they are busy. I saw Madare, so they're looking for the bodies of their loved ones. It's rather unfortunate that the government has been busy on other issues, non-issues, and when there was an outcry is when now Zakayo came up with this multi-agency team to handle, of which they have not even said anything about how they're handling it. They just said, okay, I saw Gashagwa there with the Kinachirchir. saying, I mean, there's nothing he's telling us about what they're going to do. Because what we expect is a situation like the one of, as Julia is saying, the one of COVID, whereby at least every day we get briefing, we get some kind of direction on what to do, what not to do, how we can move these people from these areas which are dangerous. We take them to higher ground, like what normally happens in Tana River. Tana River Red Cross normally move the people to higher ground so that the water doesn't carry them. But now, Bernard, you can tell me, if 65% of Nairobians are staying in slums, how easy is it to move to move them? Because population in Nairobi ni how many million? Maybe 5 million. So piga hiyo hesabu 65%, hao ni watu wangapi? Serikali inaweza kuwapeleka hao watu wapi? But you know, now this is the problem, as I'm always talking about planning. That's why we have governments, that's why we have a county government, that's why we pay taxes, because so that we can have preventative measure. We don't have to wait until when there's a problem and the problem now has become a crisis, is when we are now coming with this team they're having, of which this team is clueless. In fact, if you just look at everyone who is there, who can give direction in that team? Who of them? As much as Mutahi Kagwe was a politician, he was a senator, but alikuwa mtu mwenye akona some kind of skills or some kind of organizational experience, because amekuwa in charge of constituency and all that. But these other people now, you can see them, you saw the group. Hao watu watasaidia aje? Maybe all what they're waiting for is wakuwe allocated pesa wakule. That is the only thing. Otherwise, they are not going to be of any help at all to Kenyans. I'm almost certain of it. It is a very sad day when Eric Omondi is the one who is going to remove people from who are marooned and on top of their mabati houses to avoid drowning. He's the one who is going with a personal boat. Yet we are having a disaster rapid response team. We have them. At a city council wako nayo, the same people who do fire brigade when there's a fire, they are the same people who also have rapid response for floods. So where have they been when people are marooned? Mpaka inakuja kwa news that people are marooned in the banks of Mathare. They are on top of the roofs. Where are they to come and pull out those people? They have to wait for Red Cross and they recommend. You know, this country is becoming just a joke. That an individual is the one who is going to rescue people with a boat, yet you have a county government, yet you have a national government to whom we are paying taxes. And they keep on asking for taxes, more and more taxes, yet currently we are at 49% of our income is going to taxation. Then from there, we now go to the doctors. Of course, these people, they don't want to spend money to pay these doctors. So they are now talking about wage bill. They are now threatening to sack the doctors for not going back to work. They are now wanting to remove people who are public servants who are on permanent and pensionable to contracts. As they're doing all this, in the name of they're trying to reduce wage bill, the bloated wage bill, they are also bringing on board CSs who are supposed to be paid 700,000 each. That is basic, the basic salary, not adding the other things. Now, does it make any sense you'll in Koskei to come here and tell us that doctors who can only afford to pay them 70K, then the next week we are seeing that the Bunge has passed a bill to enable the president to appoint CSs for them to be paid 700,000 in conjunction with SRC, to remove the cap on the number of CSs who can be appointed, meaning that currently the president can even appoint 5 CSs per ministry. If they have removed the cap, what does that mean? That means that they want to add more than what is there or what was there previously. So those are the kind of problems that we are finding ourselves in. But what I can say is that Kenyans, you are on your own. Now you just have to know how you are going to jipanga, because we are not having, as I've always been keeping telling people, keeping on telling people, we don't have this is not a government. This is not a government. There's no government. We don't have a government. So majority of Nairobians, you'll have a hard time, because now you can see together with that water, and you know the type of setup which is there in informal settlement schemes in terms of the sewerage, you know. Cholera is next, actually. Cholera will actually take up more than even the drowning. Because now these people, I've seen those photographs of those, yani they're just in the middle of water. It's like, it's such a bad picture. It is a bad picture kabisa kabisa. And I would have expected Zakao to stay around to see what he can do, because this is a crisis. This is a national disaster. And it's an emergency. I think he should have stayed around instead of going on his usual trips. Because when there's a crisis, that's not now the time to start leaving the country. But what I can tell Nairobians, let's be careful. As you know, our road system as well does not have drainage. So in a span of, let's say, for example, you are somewhere, maybe you had left the house, maybe you went somewhere, and then when you are there, it rains for about 2 hours. When it rains those 2 hours, water is already logging on the roads. So you on your way, you're coming back to your house, the road, you found when you are going, the road was fine, there was no water. When you come back after 2 hours, the road is logged with water. But of course, the logic which you use is that since it just started raining not so long ago, so hata ukiona maji, you feel like it can't be that much. But your maji, because of the lack of drainage, particularly in low areas, areas where there are culverts and roundabouts, water pools a lot. So don't be tempted to just pass the water, even if you are in a big vehicle like this Mayanga matatus Nganya. Don't think, because you know water is very inaweza beba anything. By the way, you see, if at all it carries ships which are built for the water, what about nini ya matatu? Even if it's the big matatus, mutabebwa na hiyo nini. So don't drive in those kind of circumstances. You'd rather park somewhere and wait, even if it's for some hours, for the water to subside, than risk your life. You know, it's very risky. You are risking your life by going to that water. To that flooded, the flooded roads. The other issue is that there are manholes which are not covered. So when there is water, you may not be able to see that this is a manhole. So it's very easy for you to step on the manhole, and then you end up inside the manhole, because you see the water has covered it, so you can't see. Unafikiria tu ni barabara. So as you are trying to walk in the water, you just find you have stepped on the manhole na unaingia ndani, and that's the end of you. Of course, because we are not having, if we had actually a working government, or even a county government, would not be having open manholes all over the place. But because of lack of, Kenya, we don't have government. The only work which government knows to do is to collect taxes. There's nothing else. Everything else they don't care. So let's watch out. Let's watch out for one another. Let's be careful. We don't want to lose people, particularly in Nairobi, other areas like Narok, also Turkana, Tana River areas, even Mombasa, some parts of Mombasa. Let's be careful. Also, I saw a video in Mombasa of some boys who are robbing people in town, in Mombasa town. And afterwards, when they're being arrested, they're about 150 or so. That one can tell you the type of situation that Kenyans are in. Just imagine umetoka Quickmart. There's a guy who was robbed, alikuwa ametoka Quickmart. Ametoka Quickmart kufanya shopping, ameporwa na almost 30 people. Ilikuwa kwa CCTV. Hiyo shopping yenye ametoka kufanya, kila mtu you know, that's the kind of a scenario we are finding ourselves in because our youth, they don't have anything to do. Sasa wameingia kwa street kwanza kuibia watu. In large groups, hata sio ati ni timu ya watu 10. Hao watu walikuwa wengi sana, it was like na kila mtu anachukua yake, so it's like hata hawako pamoja. Kila mtu achukua mkate ama whatever yenye ametoka nao kwa Quickmart. We cannot have good security if people are desperate. So Kenyans, I don't know what we are going to do because this government is not doing anything to alleviate any problem that we have. Kazi yao ni kukula ile pesa yenye wanapata kwa taxes na kuendelea kutuongezea taxes. Other than that, Bernard, naomba tu that hao watu watapata msaada. I don't know how, maybe Red Cross ama some NGO somewhere can help them because hii serikali vile naiona they are totally clueless. Mi sioni wakisaidia watu. With the scenario which I saw, ati manyumba ziko ndani ya maji kabisa. Nyumba za mabati ziko kwa maji kabisa. Watu wanalala on top of the mabati kwa roof. Na sasa utalala kwa roof na tena kuanze kunyesha. It's very bad. Back to you, Bernard.
Thank you, public participation. We appreciate that. And I will only emphasize that aspect of taking caution. This is not the time for visitation. This is not the time for travel or walking around aimlessly. The situation is bad from the security, now the floods, and these floods would have never come at the wrong time when schools are just about to open. And so I would that every parent and every responsible person, if you have any of the children or people who are under your care, please keep them under watch. And also this is also a time when you should observe high-tech hygiene. We are talking about cholera and all other waterborne diseases. And so jikoni ikuwe safi, chakula kitengenezwe vizuri na wale watu wanahusika. Story ya kukatakatiwa mboga kwa kibanda, basi chunga, kwa sababu is either typhoid, is either cholera, and the rest. So it is to take top precaution at this point. The government is clueless, as public participation has put it, and that's the sad perspective. Zakaya administration is all about being preserved as a government, but not taking responsibility as far as the livelihood of Kenyans is concerned. Let's take that as a reality, not a joke anymore. And all the people in power, from the judiciary to the legislature and now the executive, are all in bed together. And they are in this to preserve Ruto. And so they will not do what they are required to do because I think Ruto has kind of either bewitched them or threatened them, and they are giving in to that particular attitude. And so Kenyans, let's accept that we are on our own, but take caution wherever we are. Please, if you are in a low place, if you are in that slum area, please, it is now time for you to organize yourself. And now it's time for other Kenyans of goodwill to be accommodative. You can house a family or house somebody, an extra person. Please keep every Kenyan alive. We are losing lives at a very high rate carelessly. So let's be accommodative. Let's reach out with a kind of love for God's sake and be able to assist where possible. I believe let's give it an observation in the course of the day and see how the situation is. But if it warrants us to come in and see where we can assist, we'll communicate that by the time we'll be doing our night show tomorrow. But in the meantime, if you are in those slum areas, Madare, Mkuru kwa Njenga, Mkuru wapi kwa Ruben, and all those places where houses are being swept and your life is at risk, please seek asylum elsewhere. Seek asylum elsewhere. Move out. Stop waiting for the 11th hour. The people to come with the boats may come too late. Don't spend a night in a house that you're not sure whether you're secure or not. It's important. We can only change Kenya when you are alive, not when you are dead. So please don't be careless about this anymore. Now, on that note, it's 3 a.m. East African time, and that means we'll begin to call it a day. But I want to really appreciate each one of you for always being here and supporting the channel, helping the channel grow. You have indeed been a great support to this channel, and that is why we are still here. We've been here longer than everyone expected us to be here, and it's all because of you and every other person that is profiting from this. And so we continue to encourage you. Let's continue encouraging each other to be strong and focused. This country will deliver it. We will definitely deliver it. It will take time, it will take pain, but eventually we'll get back this country and fix it. What we have right now is a circus, not a government. The earlier we accept that, the better, because there is no way 60 people have died of floods that a president will take a flight to go to another country. That has never happened anywhere. And so what we have is a circus, and let's accept it and begin to treat it like that. And for university students, this is the time for you to get your caucus together. Help rescue this country. The doctors are going on demos on Tuesday. Let's flood, join the doctors, make this country ungovernable. Zakayo hawezi anavaa mshipi wa nusu milioni, saa ya milioni kadhaa, anatembea na magari makubwa akitumia mafuta, anaishi maisha ambayo ni ya hali ya juu, lakini Wakenya wanasafa. Let's not make him feel comfortable where he is, because that's what is giving him the attitude and the contempt by which he's treating Kenyans. Let's arm ourselves and stop this madness once and for all. Hawezi kutaka kuwa dereva, hujui kule tunaenda, hujui brake ya gari iko wapi, hujui taa za gari ziko wapi, lakini unakwamilia kiti ati wewe ndio unaendesha gari. Hatuwezi kubali hivyo. So kama Wakenya tusimame imara, tuhakikishe kwamba ukweli wa mambo ndio tunasimamia. And on that note, I would want to end with this analysis by Chris Kumekucha on the aspect of what's going on with the military after the CDF being taken down in unclear circumstances. Then from there, we'll
Bernard,
be calling it at the, yes?
Sorry, I just wanted to make a point.
Yes.
We heard of the policeman who was trying to rescue people from the flood. Then he died in the process. Those who are rescuing, those who are doing rescue operations, kindly be safe yourself. Be safe yourself. Don't risk your life while you are trying to rescue others. This policeman, his body has not yet been found since that time. And for your information, the police force or the government is no longer looking for his body. What they are looking for is the gun that he had. So the gun that he had is more important to them than his body. They are still looking for the gun, but mwili yake hawana haja nayo. So you as a please do not risk your life, because this government doesn't give a damn about your life. They'll not give insurance or anything to your family once you are dead. You'll be on your own. Even your body, they'll never look for it. They'll only be looking for their gun. That is what I can say. Be safe even as you are helping others. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you for that information. And that is it. Please, as a point of information, Mother Nature, when she's angry, she's really angry. So be careful. If you're going to rescue people, don't go alone. Seek help. Go as a group. It's better that way. It's easier. And of course, I know it's an emergency, but in that emergency, your safety must be also a priority. And so it's good mkuje pamoja kama watu watano, watu 10, mkienda kurescue mtu. Kama maji ni mengi, mkiwa wengi, mnaweza kuishinda. Lakini ukiwa peke yako, kubebwa ni rahisi. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu kushikana mikono, kusaidiana. So in such a situation, please don't go in alone. Don't jump into the water alone. Make sure that you have somebody who's watching and take some precautions. So I'm happy public participation, you brought in that. And then, of course, that is the attitude of a government, that somebody loses his life, his body's disappeared, maybe aliingia hiyo manhole ile ulisema, and then all they are careful about is their gun. God have mercy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the sad situation in our country. We pray for the best, but we encourage you, please be safe where you are. Call people, find out where they are, help where you can. You can accommodate somebody until the situation is on. Kenyans have always been there for Kenyans. I know this will not call that number for Kenya for all Kenyans. If it was the other side of town, it will be. But now that it's in Mathare, you won't see Kenya for Kenyans. So let's be Kenya for Kenyans by ourselves in our own little way. I'm talking to all the people in Kibra, people in Mathare, people in Kwanjenga, Kwa Ruben, all the slum areas, especially within Nairobi, where the flooding is on. Tafuta relative, tafuta mahala ambapo unapaswa kuwa, unaweza kuwa salama kwanza. Hata kama job, forget about job, we need you alive first, then job will come in later. There are other videos I needed to play, but we are time bad. So we'll go straight to Kumekucha's analysis on what's going on within the military and around the situation in the country by reason of the demise of our CDF in unclear circumstances. Here's a way of looking at it that is very interesting. So I chose, with his permission, to share with you and encourage you. You can subscribe to his channel. He's one of the few political analysts that I trust in his analysis. One is a veteran. He's an old journalist. He has an eye to some things that majority of our younger journalists don't have. And so I'm sure we can learn a great deal from him. And so as we share these videos, it's just for information purposes. And I have no problem you subscribing to his channel and, of course, buying the material that he's offering in the video. It is just support one for another and then, of course, gain from what we are sharing. So let it not be a big issue to be a subscriber, a member of that channel, support it in any way. I have no problem. I believe this cause of fighting for Kenya will take everyone. Not one person can handle this. And so Kumekucha will do his part, Sound Candid Talk will do their part, the other analysts will do their part, but together we make a difference. So I encourage you, please, if this information is good, let it be known. And then more than that, let's ensure that we share it widely if it can help in making people make sense of what is happening. But by now, propaganda zinaanza kufunguliwa sasa kujaribu kufumba watu macho kuhusu haya maswala. Haya maswala ni nyeti sana. Let's just hear him out and then we call it a day. Thank you.
Kenyans are asking is a simple one, although it is pregnant. The question many Kenyans are asking is a simple one, although it is pregnant with possible implications. And that question is, what is the real feeling? What is the reaction within the military over the passing on of their CGS, General Ogola. And I'm sure some of you are aware that there are many rumors flying around. People are saying they are not happy. People are saying they are very angry over what has happened. So what is the truth? Well, my research culminated with communication just a few hours ago from a gentleman who, in my opinion, summarized it all very well. And I will come back to that in a bit. But first, the very interesting and, in my opinion, instructive reaction of Azimio. Now, of course, we all know that in politics, it is all about gaining the upper hand and flooring your opponent. And most Kenyans don't understand many times when an issue crops up and you expect politicians to speak about it. You expect politicians to say a lot about it, but then they remain mum, and people wonder why. Well, it is very simple. The issues are always very many, and so it is very important, like in many other areas of life, to pick your fights carefully, to pick your battles very carefully. You cannot get involved in every little battle if you want to win a war. And instead what you do is that you pick your battles carefully to ensure your victory in the overall war. And many times, politicians pick a certain topic, and they're all over it because they've smelt blood. You know that English expression. In my opinion, it is super fascinating that Azimio did not react too quickly when this news broke. Of course, there were reactions from here and there, from Azimio leaders. But it was clear they were not going for the jugular over this issue. But now clearly that has changed. To be honest, with so many visible leaders from Luo Nyanza in Azimio, one would have expected an immediate, very emotional reaction. But that did not come until now. And for those who are still doubting, was this an accident or were there some fishy things behind it? For those who are doubting over that issue, now, with what Azimio are saying, there should be no doubt. Let us never forget that the main currency of a politician, do you know what it is? It is information. Politicians have information. And when they speak, they may not give all the information, but from what they say, you will easily be able to read between the lines and get a very good idea of the kind of information they have. Please, let's be clear on that before I say what I'm about to say. I think the position of Azimio was brought out most clearly in the remarks of Senior Counsel and also Member of Parliament for Arienda, Otiende Amolo. He said that an internal inquiry is good, but it may not bring out the truth. Now, if this was just a simple unfortunate accident, then an internal inquiry would have been adequate. There was this which was faulty, there was this which happened, and although an accident is unavoidable, this and that went wrong. Very simple. But Otiende Amolo is telling us that internal inquiry, in this particular case, may not bring out the truth. And so what he's suggesting is a public judicial inquiry. Some are even suggesting a parliamentary select committee inquiry. Now, both those two tools, if I can call them that, have been used before in Kenyan history. And in all cases, not in some, not in most, in all cases where these tools have been used, there's always been foul play. Yani, things were not what they seemed to be. And there are many, many examples. The former Foreign Affairs Minister, Cabinet Minister, Dr. John Robert Ouko, there was an inquiry. The helicopter crash over Gong Forest that took the life of Professor George Setoti and Oro Jode, there was an inquiry where something crazy happened. Wait for this one. It was revealed that the National Intelligence Service ordered for the findings of the 6 bodies from that crash to be kept confidential. Yeah. Now, why would they do that? Why? I think the answer is obvious. They were hiding something. And I can go on and on and on. There are many, many examples from the past where we've had public inquiries or a parliamentary select committee. By the way, probably the most famous parliamentary select committee case by far was that investigating the murder of former legislator, very popular man, J.M. Kariuki, where when the committee presented the report to President Jomo Kenyatta at State House, Nairobi, the president then asked the committee to delete the name in that report of Cabinet Minister Koinange, who was mentioned adversely in that particular report. And the committee had no option but to delete that name. But the point is, they got to the truth. They revealed a lot of information that would never have been known to the public otherwise. And so now we should be very clear about the kind of information that our politicians have on this very unfortunate incident that unfolded to a shocked nation at the border of Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot, that took away the life of General Ogola and 9 others. And this is not something to debate. Clearly, the politicians have information that there was foul play. And there's more. This sinks the UDA Kenya Kwanza government deeper into a crisis. Let me explain. If they refuse, there will be a problem. If they agree, there will still be a problem. Because information available to the public will no longer be controlled by the government. And the only thing they can do is damage control as we go along. The same thing happened during the reign of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, during the Ouko inquiry. And things got so bad, and the information flowing out to the public became too much for the government to do crisis control. So much so that the government was forced to abruptly stop the inquiry. Yani, they said this inquiry which the president started now has suddenly been stopped. No reasons were given, of course, but Kenyans knew. It is getting complicated by the day. And this is not good news for those people who may have wanted to control information and ultimately end up being as economical as possible with the truth. Now on to the reaction of the military. Now, my source started by saying that generals are supposed to be the most protected individuals in a country, any country. And therefore, they don't die in accidents. No! And they're not killed. No way. And to understand the reaction of most of the military, Yeah. The way they're looking at this is not from the point of view of an individual. No. It is the office. Chief of the Defense Forces. The office. 4-star general. Do you know, not everybody can be a 4-star general. It is a big deal. The CDF of a country and 4-star general is not a senior military official. No. And even if something goes wrong, the way you handle them is different. And they gave the perfect example. From Kenya's first ever African CDF, a man called Joseph Ndolo, Major General Joseph Ndolo. Major General Ndolo was implicated in a planned coup in the year 1971, alongside the then first African Chief Justice, a man called Kitili Mwendwa. And it is widely known that the regime of Jomo Kenyatta was brutal and ruthless. But what did they do? Was Major General Ndolo arrested? No. Was he involved in a fishy accident? No. He was allowed to retire peacefully. And a super fascinating aside here is that Jomo Kenyatta never ever appointed another Chief of General Staff, today's CDF, until his death in 1978. Ndolo was the last one. Until 1978, when the new president, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, appointed General Jackson Kimeu Mulinge to that prestigious title. And General Ndolo enjoyed his retirement until 1984, when he passed on. Generals don't die in office. Generals are not involved in fishy accidents while in office. Indeed, my source said something that at first I found strange. He said that our friends are laughing at us. They're wondering what is happening. What a shame. What a mess. And I understood this to mean that the ways of the military are the same all over the world. And these people have colleagues in other countries. And those colleagues are looking at what is happening in Kenya. And they're saying, yeah. What is this? Now, while still on Ndolo, it is important to note that in 1969, a few things happened in Kenya that would have caused people to ask, what is the reaction of the military? And this was the assassination of Tom Mboya. Now, Tom Mboya was very close to the military and also popular with the military. And this is one of the reasons why somebody felt he had to be gotten rid of. You see, in 1964, there was a very serious mutiny at the Lanet Barracks. I'm sure we know what a mutiny is. Rebellion of soldiers, which is dangerous in any country. And as fate would have it, the man who was at the forefront of quelling that mutiny was a civilian, Tom Mboya. And I don't want to say anything. Instead, I'll ask you a question. In your opinion, do you think that there's a link between the assassination of Mboya in 1969 and General Ndolo in 1971 being involved in a coup plot? Do you think, in your opinion, that there's a link? Please allow me to leave it there. Now, that was then, and it involved a civilian. But today, the issue involves a very well-loved general who was the CDF. Folks, that cannot be a comfortable situation for any country. Just a quick reminder before I go, my highly sensitive special report that focuses on what unfolded at Elgeyo Marakwet County in relation to the demise of General Ogolla is still available, but will soon no longer be available, and therefore you have to make your decision fast. For only Kenya shillings 4,999 or $37, you'll be able to get not only this special report, but all my previous highly sensitive special reports as well, that unleash information that is moto kuliko pasi ya makaa. Use the information you see on your screens right now, or you can even shoot me an email using the email address you see on your screens, youmisstthis@gmail.com, for any clarifications that you may require. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us up to the end of the show today. Whatever Chris has brought up is something for you to think deeply about it and, of course, come to your own conclusion. But I really need us as Kenyans to think seriously about our country and put up modalities of recovering it. What we have left is just a shadow of what we used to be. We were one of the most respected army in East and Central Africa. We were leading in the entirety of military operations. The days of Moi, the days of the previous administration. What's happening with the Ruto administration? Well, let's call it a day. Please, let's link up. And of course, let's continue sending our contribution to support the channel, meet our bills, and of course, keep on air. We'll be here with your support. Let's meet again in the next show. God bless you.
Soundcard Talk sasa imeboreshwa zaidi. Kila siku ya wiki asubuhi tunapambazuka na maabudu na sifa kwenye kipindi cha baadaye tunakuletea mahojiano ya moja kwa moja kwenye one-on-one show.
Kwanza tuanze kwa mtazamo kwamba umeona vile hali ilivyo,
the age that you are living in, so many things are happening.
Alafu nakuletea taarifa zinavyochipuka siku hiyo zikiwa ange kwenye in the news headlines. Kisha tunaingia bungeni kutazama wabunge na kusikiliza tuliowaleta kupeleka bungeni iwapo iko imara.
Mr. Speaker,
they should not be given an opportunity to be in those committees.
Who told the people to close the business?
Kisha baadaye usiku kuinaangana kwenye udadavusi kamili, Open Forum Political Show.
Open Forum Political Discussion Show.
Panya akitujue tumepata the right person.
In churches, in funerals, come up and say, oh, it's our turn.
Sasa Soundcard Talk imekamilika.